Please follow and subscribe. Awaiting instructions. Input command. Transmitting. Receiving. I needed. Confirmed. Subconscious. Make use of me. For vengeance. Ichira. Multi. Unauthorized transition. Incorrect protocol. Drop your weapon. You have 15 seconds to comply. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I have returned. Our colonists initiate online. Please follow and subscribe. Awaiting instructions. Input command. Transmitting. Receiving. I needed. Confirmed. Subconscious. Make use of me. For vengeance. Ichira. Multi. Unauthorized transition. Incorrect protocol. Drop your weapon. You have 15 seconds to comply. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I have returned. Our colonists initiate online. Please follow and subscribe. Awaiting instructions. Input command. Transmitting. Receiving. I needed. Confirmed. Subconscious. Make use of me. For vengeance. Ichira. Multi. Unauthorized transition. Incorrect protocol. Drop your weapon. You have 15 seconds to comply. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I have returned. Our colonists initiate online. Please follow and subscribe. Awaiting instructions. Input command. Transmitting. Receiving. I needed. Confirmed. Subconscious. Make use of me. For vengeance. Ichira. Multi. Unauthorized transition. Incorrect protocol. Drop your weapon. You have 15 seconds to comply. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I have returned. Our colonists initiate online. Please follow and subscribe. Awaiting instructions. Input command. Transmitting. Receiving. I needed. Confirmed. Subconscious. Make use of me. For vengeance. Ichira. Multi. Unauthorized transition. Incorrect protocol. Drop your weapon. You have 15 seconds to comply. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I am returned. Our colonists initiate online. Please follow and subscribe. Awaiting instructions. Input command. Transmitting. Receiving. I'm hit. Confirmed. Subconscious. Make use of me. For vengeance. Multi. Unauthorized transition. Incorrect protocol. Drop your weapon. You have 15 seconds to comply. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I am returned. Our colonists initiate online. Please follow and subscribe. Awaiting instructions. Input command. Transmitting. Receiving. I'm hit. Confirmed. Subconscious. Make use of me. For vengeance. Multi. Unauthorized transition. Incorrect protocol. Drop your weapon. You have 15 seconds to comply. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I am returned. Our colonists initiate online. Please follow and subscribe. Awaiting instructions. Input command. Transmitting. Receiving. I'm hit. Confirmed. Subconscious. Make use of me. For vengeance. Multi. Unauthorized transition. Incorrect protocol. Drop your weapon. You have 15 seconds to comply. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I am returned. Our colonists initiate online. Please follow and subscribe. Awaiting instructions. Input command. Transmitting. Receiving. I'm hit. Confirmed. Subconscious. Make use of me. For vengeance. Multi. Unauthorized transition. Incorrect protocol. Drop your weapon. You have 15 seconds to comply. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I am returned. Our colonists initiate online. Please follow and subscribe. Awaiting instructions. Input command. Transmitting. Receiving. I'm hit. Confirmed. Subconscious. Make use of me. For vengeance. Multi. Unauthorized transition. Incorrect protocol. I am returned. Our colonists you initiate online. Please follow and subscribe. Awaiting instructions. Input command. Transmitted. Receiving. I'm hit. Confirmed. Subconscious. Make use of me. For vengeance. Multi. Unauthorized transition. Incorrect protocol. Drop your weapon. You have 15 seconds to comply. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I am returned. Our colonists you initiate online. Please follow and subscribe. Awaiting instructions. Input command. Transmitted. Receiving. I'm hit. Confirmed. Subconscious. Make use of me. For vengeance. Multi. Unauthorized transition. Incorrect protocol. Drop your weapon. You have 15 seconds to comply. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I am returned. Our colonists you initiate online. Please follow and subscribe. Awaiting instructions. Input command. Transmitted. Receiving. I'm hit. Confirmed. Subconscious. Make use of me. For vengeance. Multi. Unauthorized transition. Incorrect protocol. Drop your weapon. You have 15 seconds to comply. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey guys, welcome to the stream. Good to see you guys. How you guys doing today? Ooh, I got a story for you boys and girls out there in the chat. We've got some stories to tell. We have a lot of content coming your way, and I have a guide coming up. We're going to be recording for YouTube, for the community out there. We're going to play some more multiplayer games. It's going to be a great day. So if you're in chat, feel free to throw out the hi, hello, how are you? Give that Twitch chat a 20-second, I don't know, maybe 15-second delay. So wait for you guys to show some life, and we'll talk about what happened today. Might as well be in the guide anyway, so this is going to be part of the guide. What we're going to do here is going to do a single-player game, just to basically make it faster. Because I know that in multiplayer, when we're doing I figured if we're going to be doing a multiplayer game, we're going to be waiting on a player to take their turn. They're going to take a long time. And today's guide is going to focus more on both economy and specifically a strategy that I think we're going to start with. And I think over time, we're going to develop our guide to be more specific toward one thing or another. Alright, so before I get started with the guide, and while the game is loading, let's talk about where I've been for the past day and a half. And usually you guys see me around in the evening time where I'm at, and now it's morning. But so last night, let me see, exactly around, not even last night, but Thursday night, 2 nights ago. 2 nights ago, I got hit with a massive storm. And I lost not only power, but I lost, like, my local area got, like, smashed. And there's, like, trees everywhere, and everything was completely totaled. And, like, my next-door neighbor, I feel bad for the guy. Next door neighbor, a tree fell down and completely destroyed his truck. And like the way the tree landed on his car. And like the way I was parked on the opposite side of the street, and then the tree fell down. And like the edge of the tree was like 2 inches from my driver's side door. So my car was like completely fine, but like it was just like you couldn't even drive. You couldn't even drive there, to be honest. Hey, thank you for the host. Give me a second to load up my Streamlabs here. Streamlabels, rather, so I can appropriately thank you. Welcome back, Aggressor7 with the host. As always, the MVP of the stream. Welcome, buddy. In fact, that's going to be another topic. So yeah, long story short, that's where I've been. I've been out of power for the last day and a half. They just finished fixing the power lines this morning around 4 a.m. And I did some stuff for work, and then I'm back. But yeah, everything's back. I took care of my fridge. I threw some stuff out, did some shopping. Yeah. Anyways, that was my real life stuff. Nobody cares about that, right? Now we're back for some game stuff. So today I decided to do something a little bit different. I know there's been a few requests in the community, so I decided to make a guide. Coming up first, we're gonna launch a single player game and focus more on the details. Focus more on helping you guys understand what I'm doing in my game. And this is good twofold. One reason is because we don't need to wait on another player to end my turn and go to the next one, and it gets fast so that we can upload it on YouTube without having a 45-hour game, because I know YouTube is not going to like a 45-hour game. And the second thing is that it allows me to really direct your attention to some specifics that I want to highlight, that I really want to highlight in multiplayer, but sometimes I don't have the time myself to do that because I'm just all over the place sometimes, reading chat, go back to the economy, battle, thinking, a lot of stuff going on simultaneously. So, last thing I want to say before, thank you for the hair. Yeah, thank you for the nice cut. I appreciate that. I was getting a little bit messy there. Decided to go a little bit shorter this time around. Definitely looks better, I think, in my opinion. It was getting a little messy. So the summer hair grows fast. Long story short, as well, with this guide, I definitely want to dedicate it to Aggressor7, none other than our MVP in chat tonight, because he's been really helpful. He's been great for the stream, showing a lot of energy, showing up to almost every streamcast as well, hitting us up with that host, hitting us up with those subs and sub gifts. So definitely putting this first guide out, dedicating it to him. So if you are watching this video on YouTube, or if you're watching this video live on stream, give him a shout out, say thank you, show him your love. So let's get into it then. Alright. So I automatically clicked on online multiplayer because I'm such a multiplayer fan guy, so that I'm gonna go back there. Go new campaign. And new campaign is not exactly what we want either, I think. What we want is new scenario. So let's go back again. New scenario. Alright, here we go. We're gonna do 2 players, me versus an AI. We're gonna keep this thing low. World size, we can make it small. We're gonna make it land only. No water. That's not exactly the point of the guide. We're going to do it the default loadout. The world is going to be regular. Nothing crazy. Advanced conditions. Nothing crazy here. Game speed. I mean, this is just normal stuff. We're not going to worry about this so much. We're going to leave the turn timer off. Ask for this stuff. I think this is fine. Okay. So nothing crazy. We're just going to highlight some of the content more so than anything. So first, let's go into the commander loadout. Here's my commander. I'm going to customize it so you can see what my loadout looks like. I've got martial tradition here in the background. Martial tradition is nice because it is going to decrease your weapon research cost by 25%. So I'm an assembly main. This is going to be an assembly void tech guide. Assembly is great for research primary focus. Now think about it. If I'm going to be focusing on research, and I'm decreasing weapon research by 25%, it really works with the race because the cost is lower, I'm focusing on research, so I'm already going to be accelerating my research by just that much more. It really synergizes well with the race, racial focus in general. You could argue that the other ones are, they're okay as well, they do work, but I don't necessarily need to go into these, really to feel like I'm getting my value out of the race. So martial tradition, another thing that's good about martial tradition, other than the weapon research cost, is the actual buff, the ruthless killer buff, which allows me to take another turn in combat if I kill a unit. If my hero gets a kill, I can immediately gain all my action points back and take another turn. Now, I'm a big micro fan. I really love putting the micro aspect into the game and really calculating. So I'll look for those opportunities. I'll look for that, even in a big battle, I'll look for the opportunity for my hero to get a kill and then take another turn, almost always. So I always try to get value out of martial tradition. I feel like no other ability allows me to get that value, specifically like around combat or centered around a micro aspect. Everything else is rather passive based on the other aspects of the game. So martial tradition, I actually feel, can be raised by skill level increasing, as opposed to the other ones that are just flat for all the skill levels across the board. Now, colony supplement, I go military detachment. My logic for this is pretty simple: get myself off the ground faster. The more, especially with assembly, auto is very unforgiving for assembly. Let's just put it out like that. Auto is not in your favor. So having a larger army will just make it so that you take less damage and potentially lose less units. Especially in the early game, where you don't want to be making units right off the bat, turn 1, turn 2. You don't want to be producing units. You want to be producing infrastructure. You want to get those core upgrades. You want to get those initial colonizer out. So you do not want to start making military right away, so this is going to help supplement that fact. My commander loadout, you can choose this one. I suppose is not as specific. I go basic equipment because you actually get the arc projector is actually not bad. It's actually very good, and it's one of the better ones you can go for. The only thing I would say is value here is the fact that you get these skill points. Like the weapons themselves, you can equip the weapon at any moment in time. These are not specialized weapons that you can only get through a commander loadout. These are weapons that you can get throughout the game. You can purchase these weapons or vehicles. So the only thing I really value here are the skill points that you can potentially get. So for example, if I went with the assault equipment, I would get range specialist and steady aim, which I think are good, but it doesn't really fit into my my loadout exactly. So my vice, I go for cruel. You can go kleptomaniac. There are pros and cons. Let's talk about the pros. The pros with cruel is that it's not a bad thing. Now here's why it's not a bad thing. It's just, in my opinion, this is the best one. I've had people say kleptomaniac is actually good, but I think cruel is the best one. Why? I'll tell you why. Because happiness events, they're weak. They're very weak. They're not useful to play around, in my opinion. And unhappiness is not necessarily, it doesn't affect your economy. Really simple. Unlike everything else, literally food, research, production, energy, all four of those are economy related. Again, food, research, production, energy, those are all economy dependent. Unhappiness, happiness, not part of your economy. Which means, do we care about it? The answer is no. We don't care about it. And I'll tell you why. Some people will say, oh, you need to put down another happiness building. And that's true. You do need to put down another happiness building to account for the fact that these guys are unhappy, a little bit unhappier than usual. But that's not a big deal, because first of all, the production for the happiness building doesn't actually cost any resources. It just costs production. Second of all, it ticks down over 2 turns tops, so that you can achieve everyone being happy in 2 turns. So basically, the worst thing that I get is a 2-turn setback, if you will, which I can produce simultaneously for whatever colony I'm taking over. I have a 2-turn setback. Whereas kleptomaniac is every turn I lose 10 energy for the rest of the game, and these other ones are just minus 10% of my economy for every turn ever, always. And my argument as well is that these other ones, these bonuses, they're not as useful. This one's probably the best one in my opinion, the +2 resistance to status effects. That could also synergize well with Cyborg already being natively resistant to status effects. But at the same time, do we want minus 10% research on a race that's specifically going for research? I think that's counterintuitive, so I'm going to say no. Of course, if this was anything other than research, food, production, energy, I think this would also be maybe considerable, but the fact that it's on research, in essence, kind of eliminates it. And these other ones, not too important. Units gained plus 100% more, 100 more morale. That's not important because that's going to give us some additional crit chance when we have enough morale, but it's not something that we're going to play around. You know, we're going to go Void Tech Assembly. We're not going to be playing around with morale buffs. So, from what I was able to tell, 100 morale, it's not significant, nothing useful. And plus 10%, plus 10 health rather, not 10%, excuse me. Plus 10 hit points. I mean, that's the equivalent of 1 vitality buff for 2 skill points. So do I want minus 10% food for the rest of the game every turn on all my colonies for a 2 skill point ability? That's a heavy trade-off. That's a very, very heavy trade-off. So really, in my opinion, there's only one good vice. It's that you get cruel, really, and that's ideal so that you can keep these other ones: martial tradition, military detachment, and there you get your 4. So to me, I like this loadout. I use this one. It's kind of my bread and butter. I don't really play around too much. Maybe Kleptomaniac if you want to try that instead of Cruel. But I'm trying both. This is pretty much my bread and butter. Let's get into it. Void Tech. We'll continue. Done. Nothing else is important there. We're going to keep the AI on hard just for funs. And we're going to basically, we don't care. We're going to make them exit. We can keep them random. Doesn't matter. Let's just jump right into it, so that we don't make the guide too long.
Destruction breeds creation.
I might have to split this up on YouTube if it gets too long here.
From the Empire, your unique kind has emerged. You forged unity by merging with it.
Alright, let's go right into it. So the first thing I like to do when I land here at the bottom of the planet is zoom out. The first thing you want to do is zoom out and take a look at the economy of the map. Take a look at your surroundings. So let's do that. Let's zoom out and take a look. Okay, so we see food, production, research. We see some food buffs here. We see 2 production buffs and this purple diamond research buff. So right away, I'm thinking to myself, as soon as I zoom out in multiplayer, I'm thinking to myself, okay, how do I want to develop this? What's my first thing to take? Where is my NPC that I can talk to allow me to get my first mission? So here it is. Here's the NPC I can talk to get my first mission. It's the spacers. That's one of the first things you want to look for. First mission. Now what I do from here, get the scout, send the scout over, and talk to them to get your first mission, and accept it. Almost like 99% of the time you're going to do this. The only time you wouldn't do this is if you saw 2 NPCs and you would rather work with the other one as opposed to this one. So that's some advanced stuff we won't talk about at this moment. From there, we see that we have a mission objective here. The second thing I want to draw your attention to is the production itself. Go to your colonist tab, and in my opinion, the best thing to do, definitely take away from energy, definitely take away from production. You will not have a substantial amount of things to produce right this second in the early game. You're going to produce 1 thing over 2 turns, and having 1 colonist there is still going to leave that at 2 turns. So you're not going to be seeing, one way or another, a major bonus here. But if you start going all in on food, growth in 3, growth in 2. Bam. So we have made a significant difference. Unlike production, if I go all in on production, I'm still at 2. But if I go all in on food, I go from 4, 3, 2. That means my population will be ready to expand in 2 turns. It's going to be the biggest bang for your buck, and that's going to be the first thing you're going to want to do for your economy. Second of all, with assembly, you're basically going to have only 2 options for your HQ. It's going to be either production or research. You will never go central reactor core, and you will never go central biofarm. These are just not very viable. I've played around with them. I've come to the conclusion that it's just not worth it compared to the other ones you could be getting, production and research. Now you might be saying, okay, well, which one do I get? Do I get production or research? There are pros and cons to both. You can argue that, hey, based on what you're looking around, you can say that I see a lot of production nearby, I see some research as well. So it doesn't, long story short, it doesn't matter, because there are pros and cons. So let's talk about some of the pros for going production. Going pros is more of a late game thing. You'll see benefit of an enhanced production later on in the game when your HQ is building those late end game structures like the Cosmite facilities and the diplomatic research wings, as well as any additional extended sectors, because this will be your first colony that's really expanding right away and growing. It's your first one, of course. The science lab is also very good because it allows you to really make a significant difference. You might say plus 10 research is not that important and not that big, and you're right. Plus 10 is actually not huge. In the mid game and the late game, plus 10 is nothing. But when you start the game at plus 25 research and you have plus 10, that's almost, so you're basically almost just half of your current knowledge base per turn. So you're going from 25 to 35, which really is significant. So you're really just getting that movement to go, starting to get faster and faster. Now this is also good because you are a research dependent race, and research is very important for you. So again, there's pros and cons. Research pays off earlier. So if you have a smaller game and you have a small map, you're expecting conflict sooner, definitely go research. If you have more of a bigger map, medium, large players, you have 5-man free-for-alls, you're expecting more of a end game, so you can go for production. So this game, we're going to go for research here, so you can see right away how this benefits, how this plays out for us. Because this is also a small map, it's going to be a 1v1 versus computer. So we're going to go for that research lab here. Alright, so now let's talk about combat. We should always be positioning ourselves in a place to expect growth. So right away, I'm thinking to myself, where do I want to go first to expand? And there are some good options. Here is research, that's good. And here is some food. Again, we don't really want to prioritize the production right away because, as we said, we're not going to be building as many. We are going to be building each turn, of course, but with the way that the production works, everything is going to come out at the same time as we would normally have it without the production, and we would not expect any significant difference in acquiring these areas. This is more of a later, mid-game later thing when we really need that production to kick in. And we really want structures to start building faster and faster. Here we can just play that waiting game, of course, every turn we're building something, but we don't want it to be everything's produced and we have nothing left. We're like, oh, well, nothing's producing, let's just build a specialist training center just because nothing's building. That's not important necessarily. That's just nothing's building, let's make something. Alright, unlike research, which you need to go and get it taken down every turn always. So let's prioritize here. Let's go ahead and go grab this food source. I think this would be a nice one to start off with because we will not be prioritizing food any other means. So we're going to get over there. Notice how I have my scout. Only my scout went here so that I have the most amount of movements from accepting this mission and then coming back. And always pay attention to the amount of points you have to interact with these players or these NPCs. 35 negotiation points over here allows me to say, hey, look, 35 negotiation points. I'm at 0. Then I could do the math. 35 divided by 5, 7. And then I'll have 7 turns expected until I can come back here and reap this reward. That's why we want to say, okay, if my growth is in 2, I don't want to be looking at this right away. Just accept the mission and back off and try to clear out another sector. And usually what I'll do is I'll have the scout as a scout. I'll start sending them around. I'll look for pickups because you generally want to be getting those pickups before your opponent sends out their scout and gets the pickups. And we'll just end our turn here and we'll start continuing. Everything is allocated correctly to the food. We have our building chosen. We've accepted the mission. We've moved to we move closer to the next sector, and we can end our turn. Notice research begins at round 2. So this is the time to choose your research. Frontier facilities always seem like to be the most efficient route. I've played around with either frontier facilities or efficient scavenging. Both of these I've played around with. Frontier facilities is the better option. Let's just put it that way. I've done the research for you. Next up, you have a choice, and this is going to be assembly void tax. So the best thing I've found right now is going for phase manipulation, at least until you get to the Echo Walker program. This helps you get to these very strong Echo Walker units. They're very costly, but they can really hold their own, and they really protect you against any early game harassment or any type of aggression that your opponents can be putting forward. So start off with the phase manipulation and the void tech tree, and because later on, the firearms, the assembly tech, these other things, we'll talk about that later on after this. But so far, we're prioritizing void tech. Now we can just move forward. Get yourself 1 hex away on one guy, and then you can do the full movement. They both participate in the battle. Hit auto, no worries, and you profit. Take the reward almost always. Sometimes you'll have the option to sell the reward. You're gonna want to take the reward more times than not, just because it gives you something to work with, and you usually have nothing. It's more of that fact. So now we've grown. Allocate our people. We have food, and just go into research. Again, we're not going to be using production. We're not going to be using energy. Those are late game things we will prioritize later on in the game. We don't have anything for unit upkeep. 40. That's not bad right now, and we're gonna lose units as we move on, and etc. etc. So now we can take the sector. We took the food as well. That's why we have so much food right here from that last reward. We'll move over, and we'll just keep scouting for now. Doesn't matter which way you go. Look at that. I found production or food. Let's just take it. No problem. It just adds up over time. And so here's what's going to happen as well. When this finishes, you see how we have 80 out of 100 production? That means every turn, let's just show you what's going on here. Every turn, we have 80 production. That means every time I end my turn, I'm expected to get 80 production. Now, I only need 20 more production to finish this Central Science Lab, which means that I'm expected to have a 60 spillover. Now, that 60 spillover will be preserved if I end my turn without anything here in a secondary queue, which means if I get the Inspector this turn, the 60 will spill over to the Inspector. But if I end my turn now without anything that's here, I will still keep that 60 spillover for one turn. So what I'm saying here is that if I end my turn now, which I will, and you'll see what I mean, that research lab will finish, and now I have nothing into production, but I can choose one thing right now this turn to produce, and then that 60 production spillover for my resources will be pointed toward that production, and it will count as if I did have it in there. Now, if I end my turn again, that 60 spillover will be gone forever, and it will be wasted. It'll be as if I didn't make anything at all. So you should always prioritize having something in the queue, always, even if it's a spillover, invisible spillover. So just keep that in the back of your head. Now, in terms of what we want here, we're gonna go ahead and go for the skirmisher barracks for now. So you'll see right away, you'll see that 60 spillover. There it is, 60 out of 150. It's already almost halfway finished just because of that. All right, and now we'll have a choice for an exploitation. So we have the biodome here. It is plus 10 food, plus 5 if we have an agricultural exploitation. So we're just going to do that. We're going to give the agricultural exploitation. We are only allowed to have 2 of any type of exploitation within one colony. So each colony can take up to 5 sectors. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're only allowed to have 2 of each type. So we don't want to just go research here, because this is pretty inefficient to have only one research node. We want to be doing like research at 2 nodes, so we get the maximum value from there. Something like that. Because we're only allowed to have 2. So this is going to be one of my exploitations for agriculture. And that'll be my only agriculture exploitation for that matter. And from here, we're just going to relax. We have an unhappiness here that's naturally accruing. That's not a big deal. Partially, that's going to be from our vice, the -4 unhappiness. No big deal. Not a problem at all for us. Now let's keep going here. Now I generally want to move toward my quest, but these guys are on route of that. So all I need to do is head over here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now let's talk about this. I used 4 movements to get to this location. I used 1 movement to get to this location. Now for movements, it would only make sense for me to attack with the guy that has used fewer movements. That allows me to keep these units closer together while keeping the amount of movements they can move in succession close. It wouldn't make sense for me to attack with this one because he's already used the majority of his movements here. So I would attack with this one. It gets me to the right as opposed to the left in backtracking. We take that the research, move forward now. Now you'll see everybody is pretty much still right next to each other. So even though he took 4 movements, he took 1 movement, we're still right next to each other. That's just something to think about as well for movements. Research has been finished, so we go right into efficient scavenging. And again, we have that same spillover effect that we talked about earlier. If you end your turn without having anything to queue, that spillover will disappear, and you won't be efficiently scavenging that spillover. Same thing here, go for that Echo Walker program, you'll see that same 66 spillover. The military and society share the same research pool, so whatever research amount you have gets applied to both of them evenly. They both get the same amount. Alright, so let's, I have hotkeys. My E button is going to be my army that has not acted yet, so I'm just going to hit E multiple times, and that'll cycle through all of my units that have not acted yet. Conversely, I have Q set to colonies, so every colony I can just cycle through with Q. So E is army, Q is colony. You can just keep going back and forth with that. Helps me be efficient and remember where my units are placed or which colonies are not producing anything here. So right away, we do have the option to go into our colonizer. So I will prioritize that based on what has happened with everything being finished with the research. So we're gonna go. We have just enough cosmite, 30, to produce that. Now I want to prioritize that. I'm gonna get the arrow up, because I don't really need the barracks right away. So I prioritize the colonizer first, and the food, exploitation, and the barracks. Now when the colonizer is out, and only when the colonizer is being produced, I will prioritize production. I want to switch away from food and go into production. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then this is fine. Notice that when you make the colonizer as well, it helps dial back this unhappiness. I was at -4, but now I'm at -2 because it takes away colonists when this is in production, regardless of where it is in the queue. That's another reason why happiness just balances out. It works out, regardless of that vice. It's almost like you don't have a vice, and you just have a free point to put in whatever stat you want, almost. So we see the surroundings as well. We see a settlement here that we can easily take over for 45. We'll keep that in mind as well. So, okay, 45, I divide 45 by 5, my natural growth, and I'll have, you know, my 9 turns minus the 10, 7 turns. And from here, we're just going to keep scouting, and nothing special. Look for resources, look for opponent. There's some resources here. Energy, just take what you can get. Don't be like, oh, I don't need energy right now, let me not grab that. Just take what you can get. And then end your turn. So when efficient scavenging is finished, the first thing you want to do is go to your operations. Go to doctrines, battlefield autopsies, and get that priming. That's going to take 2 turns, so hitting prime right away will allow you to get that. It costs 100 energy, so make sure you have something stockpiled up. That's why we don't want to be making units right away, because they will cost us energy, whereas the things in structures, they don't cost us any energy. That's why I'm prioritizing things like the barracks and the agriculture exploitation, as opposed to getting another inspector or a scavenger. You can see the resources are rather tight with this kind of strategy. From here, you can choose to go into either production, energy, food, and research are really your only options. Aquatic deployment, I would stay away from this even if there's water nearby. A large reason for that is because your units have a hard time defending, especially early game, for whatever monsters are coming your way in the water. It's just not very efficient for you. So even if you want to go into the water, skip aquatic deployment until later on. You'll see me do this a lot. I would also stay away from operations right away. This is going to be ideal for tactics and stuff you can use in combat. Later on, you're not going to be getting yourselves into huge PvP conflicts, turn 3, turn 4, turn 5. Maybe turn 15, maybe turn 20, yes, but not right away. Covert infiltration as well. It costs a lot of influence points. That's 30 a pop, and that also requires you to scout, and still has a chance of failing. So I generally avoid operations, and I want to develop my economy. I'm an economy buff. I do economy mostly in every RTS or turn-based strategy, TBS. So I'm going to choose one of these. Again, energy development is going to be your late game resource. Not as important. Food, and I don't prioritize food because this is more of a Kirko thing. People who want to go into more food. Research will be great for you. Production will be great for you. The same things we talked about from the beginning. So let's go research. This is a research race. Research is almost never going to be a bad choice as a research race. And let's get this quest done. Notice that when you get this quest finished, we will have the option to get something, influence points, and just a bonus through your relation. So we're going to take that reward. We have the option here to sell the item for 50 energy, denoted by this $sign. The $sign is going to be on top of this item here. And that's saying, okay, we're only going to sell this. We're not going to sell the relation bonus. We're not going to sell the influence. We're selling this one here with the $sign. And we're going to take it because, honestly, it just fills in another slot. We have nothing. So something is better than nothing. Even if we don't necessarily think that the unit that's not our end game item, we're not going to be using that in the end game. It's fine. We're not at an endgame right now. We're going to take what we can get, and that's good because later on, when we do reach our endgame or whatever, we still have the option to sell that in the Military Overview Items tab. We can sell that still. We'll sell it for a lot less than we would based on the native quest reward, of course, but that's okay. It's not a big deal. It helps us keep our units alive and progress the game in the early game anyways. So now the mission is just to keep hunting around, try to find out easy armies you can pick off. And this is especially important for assembly because everything you kill will add research. We'll talk more about that next turn. And just looking around, nothing special. Any way you want to scout is fine. We're looking for pickups. We're looking for the opponents. Things like that. And we have our research queuing. We have something in production. Everyone's assigned appropriately, and then we can end our turn. So from here, let's take a look really quick. So now usually here's what I say to every time. I live by this. Your hit points on your army is a resource. Let's take a look over here. I'm looking at an army. I have 100%, 100%, 100%. These guys are all 100% except this one, which is 50. Same thing here, all 100%. So when you're not using your health as a resource and taking advantage of that regeneration, you're not being very efficient with that race. But that only comes into effect when Battlefield Autopsies is finished. Which means, if I attack now, while I will gain experience, I will not be gaining research. And I will want to prioritize as many mobs, especially I value these early game mobs, because they're right next to my base and I'm going to be lingering around here anyways to keep my area safe from NPC invasions. So you want to prioritize having these guys kind of taking an advantage of through Battlefield Autopsies. So in other words, this turn is the exception. Normally you will want to use your health and say, look, I'm full, I should be attacking. I should be taking damage using my health as a resource here with assembly. But that being said, this turn is not finished yet. We're going to wait one more turn. We're not going to take advantage of our moves here. We're already one move away from this guy here for the attack. We're fine. We're just going to go out, look around. We see our friend here. We don't really like him. Whatever. End talking. So this is going to be the enemy eventually. And we scout him. That's good. This could be a real player. If this was a multiplayer 1v1, sure. And now we're going to, again, just verify everything's researched. This is finishing up here. We do have the option to buy outright our colonizer. And I will do this like 80% of the time. The reason why is because we don't need energy right away. And it just gets things moving one turn earlier. In my opinion, having things move early game is very explosive. The one who has the most growth in the early game will be the one who has an advantage in mid-game and late game. So I will oftentimes spend the energy, if I can afford it, to get this colonizer out right away. I value buying that. It's just spending the energy, which is fine. I don't need it. I have other things to produce. I'm not going to be using the energy to buy a unit. That's why I prioritize the military detachment so that I can just use my army that I have, my standing army, without producing units. So from here, we're just going to get them moving toward a nice area. Look at that. We have production. We have energy. We're not too far from home. We have an easy assist in case this colonizer gets threatened by an NPC. So we're going to get them in that direction. We're also only one turn away from colonizing. And we're just going to colonize one turn earlier. We're going to have one turn sooner economic growth. And once we do that, like I said, we're going to get our production out, put it back into food growth, get out of energy here, and go into research, because we are prioritizing research. Research race. End turn. So we finished our research. You generally want to just pay attention to this a little bit. You will get bombarded every turn with some different messages. A lot of them won't be important, some of them will be important. He wants me to kill some quartzite. Now, another thing to know about quartzite units are immune to assembly passive, like healing. So you need to be careful with the quartzite units in general, but it's okay. We can just accept that. It's not a big deal. It's a weak army 480. Nothing to worry about here. Get your colonizer over there and make your colony. We're in a nice spot. We obviously see some production cog. We see production here. So we could be thinking to ourselves like, okay, we made our HQ research. Well, why don't we make the next one production so that we have, an equal footing? And there will be times when I go for something else. Of course, I'll make maybe a double research if this area was only research based, and I'll try to find a third one that will be better suited for a production colony. But if you can, try to keep yourselves, at least in the beginning, you know, one colony to one specialty, and try to balance it out in the early game to at least research, production, energy. Usually that's what I'll try to do. You know, research, production, energy with my first 3 colonies, if I have the opportunity based on the map, based on my current strategy, etc., etc. Alright, so now we finish Echo Walker program. That's the majority, that's the most important one. So from here, you do have the choice if you want to keep going down Void Path. This is not worth it. This is going to take too long to go down. And some of this is going to be Doomsday device weapons, which I don't do in my strategies. So this is not necessarily very important for you. Once you get to Echo Walker program, there is only one thing that I think would be worth it for you to invest in if you want to, and that's the grenade, which is over here. And that's still going to take you, look at that, 21 turns to get that grenade, which means it's still going to put you very far in the mid game based on your current research. It will lower over time as your research grows, but it's still a lot of an investment. Whereas if I go down something like Subjugation Ordnance, 1 turn, I can work my way to electromagnetic utilization. It's 6 turns, tops. That will mean I can get myself the Rail Accelerator, which is very good if you're going for a sniper strategy. It allows you to improve your accuracy by 10% and gain 1 range, plus 10% damage. Now that's a viable strategy. That is something you can do. This game, we won't be doing that because we're going to prioritize the Electrocutioners. The way I see it is this. You can do 2 strategies as your backline DPS, your solid range DPS. You can go down Arc, followed by Assembly, or Firearms, followed by Assembly. You only want to choose one of these, really, or if you really want to do it, then stop at electromagnetic utilization and do some kind of hybrid sniper strat and then go down archery. Ignore explosive payloads, ignore kinetic force, ignore relativistic projectiles. Those are not very useful for you, for this kind of strategy anyways. So what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to go down molecular computing, which is going to unlock a lot of useful mods. Ocular implants is nice as well. It's mostly for your range units or your heroes in case you're getting attacked. Plus 10% crit chance, plus 1 armor. You don't want the crit chance. Why crit chance is not very important on your melee is because they already have a high accuracy. Crit chance allows you to potentially get better accuracy. More on that later. And melee already have great accuracy. They're at 95% chance to hit because they're melee. So that's not as important. Crit chance is not very important for melee units. And we'll have the option to go into reverse engineering or advanced bionics. We'll talk more about that later in the next research. So now we have our doctrine enabled. So this is going to allow us to use that health as a resource. So here we go. Auto combat here. We lose a unit, like I said. Assembly on auto. Obviously, if we go into manual combat here, do we lose this guy? Never. But if you're playing multiplayer and you're going to have auto on, sometimes you're going to lose these units. This is going to be part of that race. It's going to happen. So that's okay. It's not a big deal. We will compensate for that later on. Alright, so now we've gotten a huge production reward. We're going to prioritize that Rec Dome. And this is again why happiness is not that bad of a vice. We have an event happening in 8 turns. This is going to be done way before 8 turns, even without any production benefit, if you have any. Get ourselves up in food, and we can just balance this out. It's not a problem. This doesn't cost any resources other than production. Doesn't cost us any energy. Takes 2 turns to build. Not a bad vice to have in the slightest. Hitting E allows us to move our units. So we're going to hit E, go back to our scout very quickly without having to scroll the map and say, where's our scout, where's our scout? Always try to hotkey your units if you can through the options, key bindings. So again, try to find something that's close. We find these guys here. Let's engage them right away. Hit the auto combat. Use that house as a resource. Drag it down a little bit. Get ourselves promoted and take this 20 research here, which is just going to get us closer and closer. Get these timers ticking. We can even backtrack and say, hey look, I see this guy back here, and if I want to, I can hit it again, hit auto combat, and another 15 research. So from here we can zoom out, just try to scope, see what's happening here. Always try to plan what is around here. So if you remember, we had this colony here for 45. I'm thinking to myself, oh well, 45 is in 2 turns. The scout's 2 turns away. That will be my next move. Think about your next move, even if you're out of turns. This guy's going to be like, okay, I want to find some additional NPCs. I see one down here, so I should be coming out here. I see one over here as well, so something like that. End turn. Don't worry about the commander level ups. You spend it when you can. It doesn't mean, it's not like you will lose it if you don't use it that turn. That's okay. Infantry commander, always. This is amazing. Why is this amazing? You and your heroes get 10% additional damage if your units are light. And guess what? You're not starting out with tanks. You're not starting out with air units. You're starting out with light infantry ground units, which means for the duration of you battling all of these NPCs, you are taking advantage of these units in this infantry commander. Which means even if your strategy was for some reason to go into ground only or air only, right now in the early game, regardless of your strategy, you will be only getting benefit from infantry commander. You will not be getting benefit from either one of these, at least until the mid game or end game. So you always want to have at least one commander anyways to have this. So grab that. It'll at least add to your survivability. It'll add to you just having a better early game, which is going to obviously mean a better mid game and better late game. So we're going to go over here, get our research up. Again, I go into advanced bionics or reverse engineering here. There are some good choices for both. I like the reverse engineer. He's a great medic. He's a great tool. If you have, he has a lot of abilities. He's got an ad. The construct is an ad. It can explode and make paths for your melee guys to close the distance. He also has repurpose. He can revive. He can re-kit one of your units so that he can use their one ability, one of those as well. So if they only have an ability they can use once in the combat, he can make them use it again. So that's great, but again, you don't need that right now. Later in the game, you'll have the resources to make that. It's a little bit pricey right now, so I'll go down to advanced bionics, try to get myself more toward my end game melee tank modules as well here. We also have the society. We finished up research development. I value anthropologic research right away. You'll see me say this, Cosmite is a commodity resource that if you only start stockpiling at the end of the game, you're never going to have enough for it. You need to get these things early on and prioritize them early. Plus, you'll have access to the diplomatic wing, which I think is very powerful. So you'll have two of these things, which are very powerful, and basically in the same research. So it's like a 2-for-1 here. Plus, the other ones are not necessarily as good. This is going to give you plus 10 for a river. This is going to allow you to clean up any hazards. Ideally, at this stage in the game, you're not colonizing things with hazards for a reason. You have options, hopefully, to not choose something with hazards on it. So that's not as important. Sometimes you can backtrack toward that, especially for the happiness game. That's later. Anthropologic research right away. Okay. E will allow us to keep moving, keep scouting the map. This AI is on hard as well, so we should be seeing if they are actually on hard or whatnot. So, okay, let's take a look.
Empire task completed.
Oftentimes, especially if you build that colonizer right away, you will have access to this. You will be the first one to finish the builder as well. You'll get the second colony out quicker. You can exploit faster and add the sector. Why is that important? Because then you already have another colonist. It's as if you didn't make the colonizer at all. So all of a sudden, spending that 80 energy to buy out that colonizer allows you to finish this one turn faster than everybody else who just copied you in a mirror build. So you buying out, maybe other people did not buy out. Maybe they didn't have the resources to buy out. Maybe they were building units and they don't have the energy to buy out. So now you get advantage of this colonist reward right away if you're playing with those Empire tasks. And even if you're not playing with those Empire tasks, it's still a good investment because you still will deploy one turn earlier. As we said, we want to produce the Central Replicator Factory. Gets us plus 15 production, and we already have a research one. We can make this our main production facility. This is nice because it's close to home. If our HQ gets threatened, it's an important colony as opposed to maybe some later in the game forward bases. We are more willing to lose forward bases. We're obviously less willing to lose our HQ and some of the colonies that are right next door to HQ, which are more important and one of our main production or research, etc., facilities. Okay, from here, let's take a look. Everything should be done except our combat. So let's look at the health. We're full. Look at the health. We're full. Use that hit point bar as a resource. We want to get that lower, and while we get that lower, we gain more research.
Objective completed.
And we finish some quests. Take the reward because it doesn't hurt because we have nothing else to slot in. Confirm those loadouts. And move to the next objective. Now the scout's going to come here, activate the influence bonus. We're going to end our turn here. So let's take this colony right away. Tell them to join us. Now the reason we can't turn this into a colony right this turn is because it's already neighboring a colony. Now if this was neighboring a sector that was annexed, we can still turn this into a colony. So the only option we have really is either turn this into a colonizer unit or invite the population to live with us. The colonizer unit is always the better choice in my opinion. And it doesn't matter where we take it, so long as we keep expanding. Generally somewhere that's close to us, maybe looking for a resource that we don't have yet. So ideally I'm looking for something with energy. I see something with energy down here. I see some energy. Looks like a nice double cog. And a production. Let's go take a look down there. Maybe bring our scout there and see. It looks like empty. Scout shows it's empty. Okay, let's get over there. Fine. And that looks like a nice little energy one. We also have this energy here. I'm going to say, okay, look, my third colony, energy. Now I have a nice little balance. Okay. So keep looking for those resources. Any type of pickup here. See where our opponent has expanded. We see this expansion here. We see them having this area here. Interestingly enough, we have this whole map and we're kind of like right next door neighbors. We're going to see how that plays out. We're probably going to do some early game war or something. That's fine. Okay, the other thing I wanted to say, we're going to be growing soon. So basically we're growing next turn. You take this number here in the circle, you divide it by 4. Whatever number to the whole number, whatever number that you get when you divide to the nearest whole number is going to be the amount of sectors that you can hold next door to your colony. So we're about to hit 8. 8 divided by 4 is 2. That means we can take not just one sector, but another sector nearby. In terms of value, one of the better things we can actually be doing, surprisingly, is not grabbing this Star Union landmark here, even though it adds a nice production bonus, but actually double back and grab this research node, because this is going to be more of a research-based colony. But at the same time, I don't really want to go back with my entire army, because I want to use this health as a resource, so I'm kind of in an impasse. I really want to take this area here next turn, or the next 2 turns, but I don't want to go back because I want to keep attacking things. This is where I'm going to split up my army. I'm going to say, okay, what unit don't I need very much? Scavenger, because I have 3 of them, and I already have, I do need these guys because they are my only backline DPS. And we'll get the Scavenger to get out there. Now what I did there was I clicked on this button here on top. This allows you to split up your units individually and get them out of the group. Now you can do this with 2 units and they will both leave as well, like that. And if you want to recombine them, simply click back on that same hex and you get them to merge again. Just like that. And from here, we're just going to basically look for things we can fight. We see a weak army over there, so let's head in that general direction. We also see this guy back here, which I kind of miss sometimes because it's kind of blends in a little bit too much. It's kind of hard to see sometimes. So we'll hit this one first, and then we'll backtrack and kill that guy. All right, end our turn here. Everything is in production. Everything is in production. Next turn. So now we're at 8. So now this is the time when we can come over here, take this area, and look at that. It works out perfectly. We have nothing to build, so then we're going to say, okay, what can I build here? You'll have an option to either go for either standard military infrastructure, a specialist center, and this is pretty much useless even though you're focusing on research. It only works if you have a ruin sector in your domain. I almost never have a ruin sector in my domain. Like, let's take a look. Forest and fungal, mountain and fungal, no ruins. Which means 10% of 0 is still 0. There's no point in getting the neural interfacing data core. Unless you have a very lucky spawn with ruins, it will never be it won't be viable at all. So the better thing in this case is I'm going to say to myself, okay, do I want to have a military infrastructure? Not necessarily. Special training center? No. You only want to prioritize one. Choose skirmisher or choose specialist, depending on your strategy. If you want to go electrocutioner line and focus on them as your RDPS, go down the skirmisher. If you want to use Vorpal sniper, go down specialist instead. Only choose one. Now, later on, you will get both, of course. That's later on. Generally, they're both viable. You can go down to the Vorpal Sniper or Electrocutioner. I wouldn't do both because ideally, especially in the early game, you only have enough resources to you don't get to choose everything. You know, you can only choose to specialize in one way or another, and they act similar. They both act as a ranged DPS backline, and too many pieces doesn't mean they're all going to be a jack of all trade army, which is a specialist of nothing. You know, the jack of all trades is great at everything, but best at nothing. So just try to specialize, I'd say. Choose one or the other. So I'm going to go for the Echo Walker, just because it allows me, even if I don't finish it in 3 turns, I won't finish it, because I'm going to prioritize the resource exploitation next to my economy. It allows me to get some of that spillover to start going into something. I just need to choose something or anything. Here we can choose happiness, no big deal. We have more than, just choose a bare minimum of happiness, that's fine. You can go research, it's okay. Same thing here, you can prioritize growth. Here you can choose the auto up arrow button, which will allow you to do it manually, or not do it manually, to have the game choose to do it for you. And you can go into Rectum is not bad, you can do that right away, take care of any happiness you'll have later on, that's fine. And here we are, let's take this out here, use that health as a resource. Get a research ticking down here. Colonizer, get that colony. This is our scout, we're still going to be looking around. We see 470, Cosmite, grab that. And just some more NPCs. Take note of their army power, so you can say, okay, look, it's pretty weak. I can come back down here and take out some of these guys with relative ease. So a lot of skill points here. Cybernetic Overdrive, pretty much a must pick. For 3 skill points, it allows your units to act again, which is an insane value in the early and mid game. It really has value at all stages of the game, but especially in the early and mid game. It allows you, for example, what kind of value can we talk about here? Well, let's say you have tanks. You're too far away with your tanks. You can move toward the enemy, but you can't really close on them and get the damage in, get yourself into melee Overwatch. Well, now all of a sudden you can move very far, almost get to the opponent, and then use Cybernetic Overdrive to get all your action points back and do another immediate turn to close the distance and get them close enough to not only fight them, but be in range of that melee Overwatch where you can attack them on their turn. So that's the kind of value that you can see with Cybernetic Overdrive. So you should always pick that. You basically can use it always. Nani boosters affect your whole army. I really value abilities that will affect your whole army, not just one hero. So everyone in your army, including your commander, gets +2 resistance to status effects. That does stack with the Cyborg plus 10% bonus, inherent bonus to status effects. So it just makes you a lot harder to debuff. From here, you can have a choice. Now this is more of a personal preference. I play around with this all the time. Sometimes I do arc weaponry. Arc weaponry is probably my favorite, but it does require a massive research investment, and that's more of a late game thing. You can also, I've played around with snipers. Snipers are great, a lot of fun, massive damage. Does require much less of a commitment as well. Or you can go in to do some kind of melee build, which I think also has value, especially since Assembly does have a fair bit of melee, more so than the other races. So in this game, for now, we're just gonna, you know what, let's go for the melee. Let's switch it up a bit, just to show you guys something different as well. There's really no wrong answer here. You can build how you like. It's just more specific to the current playstyle. Sometimes it could be the opponent's army that you're trying to counter. It's really no right or wrong answer here. It's more of how you like to build yourself. So if I were to go for a melee build, obviously I would consider doing some things like close quarter specialist, vitality for a melee so you can have more sustain when you're trying to close that gap. You wouldn't do things like watchman because that's primary ranged attack Overwatch. That's not as important for you. But phase shift is like a teleport. That could be a great ability if you are going for a melee. You want to teleport, get closer to the opponent, or teleport, get away from an opponent if you are too low on health. And I'll go for the close quarter specialist this time around. And of course, if I'm going close quarter specialist, I should be considering giving myself a close quarters weapon. So you have a choice: Void Blades or Arc Sword. Let's take a look at the difference. 12 damage, 12 damage. Difference is here that Void Blades have a dimensional instability. I did research this. I have a chance to inflict something here. So we might as well just go for Void Blades. It costs a little bit more energy, a little bit more Cosmite. It's a tier 2 weapon as opposed to a tier 1. Damage is relatively similar, not the biggest deal. So not you wouldn't necessarily see major differences here. The Phase Walk Modulator as well, something that we can start equipping toward our Scavengers. This will allow us to have a 20% innate evasion, essentially, and it will give us +1 shields, and will allow us, probably my favorite one of all, to walk through obstacles. Now this is a great ability, this is a great mod. I'll pretty much use it in the early game, in the mid game. I will remove this later on in favor of something different, but this allows me to, at the very least, get my units more powerful later on in face of early game aggression or etc. Now the cost is pretty cheap. I could mod all of my units for 15 Cosmite and 30 energy. That's basically 1 turn of energy right now, and Cosmite's very low. So we might as well do that. Now the downside of that is I have to wait 1 turn here. So that means this turn I can't act. That's okay. We've already taken our turn, and now we can upgrade with our mods. That's fine. Make sure that everything's in production. Instead of going back and clicking on these individually to make sure they're producing something, I can also go to the colony overview, and here you're going to see a picture. If you see a picture of a building or a unit, for example, you know that it's producing. It'll even tell you the time it takes to complete the production. This allows me to think, okay, I have 2 turns until I need to worry about looking at these necessarily. But of course you generally want to look at them every turn, because you can do things like prioritize your colonists to the right area, etc, etc. And this guy can come back. Once this starts annexing, you can just walk away. Let's keep going. Next turn. Okay, so these guys, I don't want to help the autonom, so how this works is you should only do 1 quest line. Either, and this is the second NPC faction I found. So we have the Spacers and the autonom, so only do quest line for 1. Now if I went with the Spacers, interesting, I don't really care either way right now. They're not going to help me. I'm not really going to take advantage of either one of them in particular this time around. But let's say if I went with the Spacers, well, we will have access to their trade. And if we wanted to see what they can do, we can get some additional units. Some of these modules which do favor lasers and choking debuffs. And small amount of energy after each battle, which is it just adds up. If we want to do that, we can. Doesn't hurt. Nothing amazing to change our playstyle. These are things I don't really focus on as much, because these kinds of NPCs are on a case-per-case basis. The ones that spawn are random, they're RNG. So I don't want to make a huge build around an NPC faction that doesn't exist later on, if you can't find it. As we said, this is going to be an energy facility. I just try to keep the energy with the energy facilities. Plus 10 energy right there. Easy peasy. I also see Cosmite here. It's a commodity resource, so I should be thinking to myself, okay, I definitely want to be coming here for Cosmite, but I also see there's a hazard here. Now this is going to be when I want to double back and then get the environmental conditioning. So we can get that after anthropologic research, and that's fine. As always, primary the food with the up arrow, and that's going to be more important than anything else when you're first starting out. The reason why is because the more colonists you have, the more of the resource that you actually want can work there. So if I only have 1 person in this colony, if I decided to do research, let's say if I wanted to put research here, or I'm sorry, energy here, I would only get +5. That's not very effective. But if I go for food for a few turns, and I increase my colonists to 2, to 3, that will be +10, +15. That's more of the resource I want, as opposed to less. So give it a few turns to get food, get more people in here, and that'll help you out. Alright, so let's keep going. Oh, we see a pickup here. That is supply. Here as well, we can choose to talk to these people, and we'll do that. We will, because talking to them allows us to open this up for later, increases our relations, and we have a weapon. We don't really care about that weapon right now, so we're going to sell that weapon, and this will also sell the production. So there are times when I think I don't like choosing. I don't usually like to the system of take everything or sell everything is essentially what we're looking at here. But in this case, we'll just sell it because that's fine. We don't want the rifle. We're going for a melee build here. Just showcase that. Something different. And the reason why I choose a melee build here is really just to highlight the martial tradition as well, and show you the power of martial tradition. And we're just scouting around. We see a pickup here as well. More energy. This is a scavenger that I see this red guy here. He's nearby. We need to be thinking, oh, he can attack us. Potentially, let's try to get the scavenger that's left over in that general direction just in case he can help out. We see another hero. I usually recruit the first hero that comes up. It's cheap, and I kind of work with him. You can change his loadout if you wanted to. One thing that you can do as well is see what he's learned already. He's learned Assimilate already, which means he's already equipped to be a good melee hero, because this is already going to give you, it's already a melee skill in that general direction. So yes, I could give him a rifle, I could make him a ranged unit, but he's already focused, and he already has a melee weapon, he already has a melee skill. These heroes will be set to do their task, so just keep that in mind. You can change them, but they're already technically, they have some of the skill points and some of the loadout to make them whatever they are supposed to be, which is this guy's going to be a melee. Alright, we'll give him a pistol as well. That will use up our Cosmite. That's not okay. It's not a big deal. And again, we see this guy potentially threatening Fornoid. Let's get him over there in that general direction. Alright. From here, we see that we have the sector we can still exploit, so we're going to upgrade that first, get that research, primary that, and then get the Echo Walker later. That's okay. And we can end our turn. So like we said, there's going to be a battle here. That's okay. Let's go into the manual combat. One, because it's a risky battle, and two, we can really show you what assembly can do when you're actually playing with assembly. Now, this is also good because it's showcasing some of the early game, some of the mid game, instead of just having a massive tier 4 fight where the units are already modded, everyone's very strong. I can talk about some of these units when they first start. Now, scavengers are great. These are going to be your bread and butter tank DPS. They're supposed to be up front, and you want them to take the damage. You want them to get in range, close range, to sustain by using their Claw Slash, which will heal and deal damage. And a shotgun, of course, is a close range ability. You know, of course, you expect shotguns to do more damage close up. And it has poor accuracy at long range. You can use 4 for defense mode. I'll just hit 4. This guy is going to be your support. He has heals with maintenance repair. He only has 25 hit points, so keep him in the back like this, not too far, not too close to everything else, and just hit defense mode. End your turn. Get these guys a little bit closer, and we'll basically end our turn
Operations ready.
twice here, more or less. And we click on the opponents to see how far they can move. We see their movements here, not much further than this, and they're going to be within range of us. So there's no reason for us to go this way, because if we do, we're out of action points. We can come here and then do a shotgun if we wanted to, but look at that. We see red on top of that green bug's head. That means we're going to have relatively poor accuracy. We're expected to miss. So even with the most amount of, the closest distance we can go, we're still going to be expected to see poor accuracy. So these are some of the decisions I'm thinking about in these situations here. So hit defense mode, defense mode, defense mode. Nothing to see. Nothing special here. Okay. Now we're getting a little bit closer. So now we're expected to see a lot better of a range. We have yellow instead of red, so we at least have a chance to hit. That's good. And then we can get closer and use our Overwatch ability if we want to. For now, we'll go use our shotgun. We'll hit for 14. These are our rolls we need. We need to get a 50. We hit a 60. Same thing here. We hit, do 13. Now what I'll do here is I'll get this guy to a position where I can still be within range to an extent, but also able to hit, potentially hit. Now he's also farther from these guys, so he can't just be nuked and killed, and he can still act as a support while putting on a very little amount of damage to add up here. Okay, he attacks. He only has one or two action points. Triggers an Overwatch attack, which allows me to instantly gain my health back. And then I'm in prime position now to easily win this. I can just use my melee attack, high accuracy, heal myself back up to full health, no problem here. I have my... So this is a repeating ability, so I can get myself a little bit closer. I have the option to move myself 1x over, get better accuracy. There I go. I can still take as many shots as I like to. It is a 45% chance, not the highest chance to kill him. And it is a miss. Nothing special there. That's okay. Sometimes that happens. Alright, so if we do act, that means we will get hit with an Overwatch. That's okay. But what we can do here is get ourselves... We have the option to hit this guy or hit this guy. We might as well hit this guy because he's... Gets our units closer together, makes him walk as well. And we're going to take that one Overwatch hit from the opponent. We'll finish off the target. Or we won't finish it off the target. Thought we were going to finish off the target there. Oh, because we got staggered, that's right. We got staggered from his attack. Oops. Mistakes were made. Forgot about that stagger there. I don't do as many manual battles in the early game because in multiplayer, you auto the majority of these. That's okay.
Unit has fallen.
Alright, so we lose that one, unfortunately. That's okay. So we'll kill this one.
Enemy destroyed.
And what we'll do here, if we have enough hit points for it, we will kill that. Okay.
Enemy down.
And turn.
Unit offline.
Lose our scavenger. That's okay. So let's take a look. So here we need to be careful because we lost our scavenger. That wasn't exactly the best thing we have. We don't really have anything in terms of our abilities either. So what we should do is basically let's see of his abilities. He's got a jump attack, deal damage any flying units. It'll do 10 damage here. So that'll hurt us to an extent. Because ideally we would use our maintenance repair, but I kind of misplayed that. I'm just not gonna lie, misplayed that a bit with that staggered. All right, we'll move over here. Do a little bit of damage. Okay, he does a leap. Does 9 damage here. Okay, so this is gonna do single action, no problem. Flanked, 90% chance to hit. Good damage here. We should end. And a graze. Doesn't really do a whole lot of damage with that jump here. And then we can just kill him. So the mistake I made there was that these guys have stagger. Even though it was showing me that I had an action, it really took away the action with the melee Overwatch counter. I should have been thinking about that. Alright, anyways, that's why even I should practice some of these situations. Okay, so we have a pickup here on the way. No problem to take that. Look at this. This is the power of our research while we're killing our opponents. Is because these two are almost going to be finished. We hit that auto combat and then both of them are done now. Okay. Take the research bonus, double our research. These guys are angry though. Because we just dissected the robot. That's okay. I'll take the research. And we said that we wanted to go into environmental conditioning to get rid of one of those hazards coming up here soon. We can produce the adaptive systems. Just keep them going down one line or another. I like to go down melee because melee can allow me to sustain and do damage application. It's just really good. It's very powerful, I feel. I can do a lot of things with it. I'll show you that as the game progresses. Alright, so I can get a scout or some energy. I want to get the energy because scouts will, any other unit you get is more upkeep that will hurt your energy reserves, and I don't necessarily, that doesn't have as much synergy with me. It's just another unit, so nothing special there. Alright, so we're gonna keep looking around here, see what we can find. Here's a pickup, take that. We have another pickup here, more energy. Alright, this is a pretty small map, Bionics are done. Okay. This base as well is ready for an expansion at 4. So we can be thinking, okay, where is a nice production base? We see a nice production sector here, followed by some additional attributes for our economy. So we would like to do that. And here is a good time for us to go. We can say, okay, we want to build more units. Let's build more units. Now we can go into some more production here. This is a good time to do that because we have an annex jet, and we don't necessarily want to build a barracks right away. We will later, but right away, not as important. I do want to prioritize Cosmite as soon as I can. That's always useful. But I will finish up the research at the very least. Get the economy up. And then we can end our turn. Because there's no other units that are awaiting our command. Okay, we'll do manual combat. So that we can improve ourselves and just show the units again. And because it's risky. Hide ourselves in cover. Oh, let's take a look at his movements. Get ourselves up here, it's fine. He's too far away from him. Okay, get ourselves over here. End our turn. Easy. Okay.
Operations ready.
He doesn't move very much. In terms of our shotgun, can't really go too far. Let's take a look at his movements. Okay, we see where he can go. Not too far is where he can go. Okay. Okay, let's get ourselves forward. And end our turn. End our turn. So I like to go all in on this guy here. My claw, get myself some hit points back. The flank opportunity. And now I'll just get over here and get our maintenance repair. And my turn. Trigger an Overwatch attack. Put this on up a little bit faster.
Unit offline.
Okay. Can finish that off here. Get a kill.
Enemy destroyed.
We can use a shotgun. Get ourselves a little bit further. Flank. And turn. He's running away. Interesting. Shotgun. Should be kill there.
Enemy killed.
This bird just running. He comes back. Okay. Interesting.
Enemy annihilated.
Wasn't sure why he ran away with that bird just to come back, but okay.
The assembly march on.
Interesting bird. More research. Another battle. He's engaging. Oh, this is interesting. He's engaging with an electrocutioner. I almost never see that. So a lot of fights early on. That's going to happen. Getting the box is always one of your safe areas. And this military is not the greatest military. I haven't had any upgrades on this yet. So you should generally have your army lingering around when you don't want to upgrade that military presence.
Operations available.
Again, I don't have any operations to speak of. But that's okay. Okay, so he has a range to attack my inspector if I don't put him in a better spot. So let's put him over here, a little bit further. Have him come to us, and we can end our turn. Put our guys into defense mode and end turn. Let's see what I got here actually. Phase, system bird, yeah, no, okay. Nothing good. Enter. These guys are melee. They're just gonna come. Oh, well, these guys have battle bomb at us, right? A little small range attack, but they're primary melee. They're like basically scavengers that have the shotgun. Even though we have a shotgun, we're not exactly range DPS, you know. Nothing like that. Okay. So now let's go ahead and get ourselves closer. And get ourselves healing up a bit here. So that what we'll do, okay. Flank opportunity, and it also puts us in range of the other opponent so that we can trigger our Overwatch, melee Overwatch. So that's good for us. Get ourselves over here. And we have a flank opportunity, which we do hit in our turn. So we trigger Overwatch and kill him. That was partially why we put him there. Our turn. This guy's at 1 hit point. First thing we're going to want to do is heal him, because that's plus 20. And we really only have one choice here, which is to attack. That cancels his melee Overwatch because we staggered him. And then we can just get close enough to attack him. And now we are in melee Overwatch, which means we just have a guaranteed attack on him next turn no matter what he does. So we trigger that counterattack. And from here, end turn, kill him, just get ourselves closer, attack, miss, that's okay.
Unit destroyed.
That's okay. Have a flank, get him to turn around, and then we can flank him again for additional damage. He's also in range of melee Overwatch, which triggers now, plus 6 health, and then that's why melee Overwatch is just very strong. And I can just have the option to fully heal myself and end the turn.
Enemy down.
So these battles can really go in your favor when you take advantage of those
March on.
assimilate heals, and I'm just full health again. Taking risky battles actually can work in your favor when you try to put those scavengers in a good spot to proc that assimilate and keep yourself sustained long enough to win the fight. It's a very powerful ability. Okay, so where are we? So we have a choice. We can build. This is going to be our main production area. I'm sorry, this is going to be our energy facility. So it's not our main production area. Let's go ahead and get that rec dome. And we are going to take the next area here. 40. So this is a situation where I can't move all of my hexes to get closer. So I should move some of, basically, my scavenger can get there. So we'll split up the group again, grab that sector, and we have the option to talk to these people, which is a quarry. Let's talk to these people. Get them to be our friends, give up the area, take the reward, and continue building. So we can now go into that barracks that we were talking about before. Now would be a better time to do that. They have a demand. We're already at war with an NPC faction. We don't want to be at war with 2 NPC factions, so you can pay the demands. It's not too expensive. Nothing too crazy there. Okay. So let's make sure everything is producing. Go to the colony overview. We see everything's producing. We see this -1. They're not too happy with us. So we say, okay, how can I alleviate that? Get rid of the energy here. Put that into research, and now we're good. So we finish this production. Right, now we're just looking around for more things to kill. Looks like we have maybe something down here. We have these yellow things represent unidentified forces. Unidentified forces. So these could be potential enemies, or they could be NPCs that you can interact with and make them your buddies, or etc. Scouts. we've essentially came all the way around now, so we're back to the beginning. Okay, end our turn. Research is queuing up. Scavenger is here. Let's bring him over here, because I believe that if we're one heck, okay, we can take this out. 452, 300. Low risk. We won't worry about manual combat. That it should be self-explanatory there. So we have spacers, and we have a regular NPC guard. We'll take that one out next. You haven't just periodically look at your hero, see if you've leveled up or not. I haven't. You can also look up here, 35 out of 46, which means you need to get 11 more experience to level up. The fewer guys that you go into battle with and are successful, the more XP you will get on your hero. Something to consider. We see some Cosmite here. We can grab that next turn. Okay, everything is producing. We're happy, and we can end our turn. This is 340. We healed up. Now that we healed up a little bit of our health. We can go into combat again. Hopefully we don't lose anything. Same thing here. Go into combat. Actually, we can just showcase the... We will have spillover, but we can showcase that research. Moving over. So we can choose to go for either Ruins, Exploitation, +1 to research and energy sectors in Ruins, which we don't have. Reducing the cost of moving in the terrain. Land movement, gain expedited movement in Ruins, and then we have +1 research per person in Ruins. So this is going to come down to, hey, what do we have so far? Do we have Ruins? And the answer is, I think on this map we don't really have much in terms of Ruins. We can come over here to take a look. We have fertile plains, we have arid, and that's what it looks like for the majority of this place. Fertile plains and arid. And we have lava, mountain, river, arid. Yep, we have nothing in terms of Ruins, exploitation. That is a research one though, so sometimes we will want that. This is good for energy. It does require mountains. But do we have mountains? The answer is no. We don't have any. We don't have any mountains either. So what do we have? We have fertile plains. We have fungal. We have forest. And if we wanted to continue going in this general direction, we would need to choose one of these categories. This is why the tree, if you follow the white lines, it will show you which path you need to take to continue going forward. In terms of our operations, again, we will want operations at some point sooner rather than later, but this is more of a mid-game thing for sure, more mid-game oriented. It gives me more strategic operation points to use in battle. That's more PvP stuff. I don't use tactical operations against NPCs. And this is interesting. This is colonies will give me +1 of their resource per colonist working on it. This is interesting. I can get this. This is obviously going to be more of a mid-game thing. When you have more colonies, you have more people. That's only going to get stronger and stronger. But you can consider going this quantum gain, area surveillance, operation effectiveness. Now, it's more important to use the doctrine slot that we've had employed for battlefield autopsies. So you will always get battlefield autopsies first. And that's important because you will have no doctrine slots free. Which means if you did want to do something like quantum gain and go into echo protocols, you would also need to go into area surveillance and operation effectiveness. It kind of takes you 1, 2, 3, as opposed to just doing like 1. So that's something to consider. We can do that for now. 1, 2, 3. Just because these are lackluster right now. We don't really care about it that much. We don't have ruins, fertile plains, no mountains, no ruins, in the forest. We don't even need this right now at all. Nothing special. So let's go into our combat. Get the reward. And we can go into combat again, because they're low enough to the point where we can just still use our health, get down to about 70%, and wait till next turn to regenerate. Oh yeah, we forgot about this resource here. That's good because he has a scout here that might have taken it next turn. And we have another resource here. So I've gained so many resources just using these scouts, these inspectors that are flying around. These are ideal units to use as scouts because they are flying, which means they use fewer points to navigate the terrain, to traverse, and they cost nothing. So if you lose them, that's only 30 energy gone. Not a big loss at all. Okay, after this guy's finished, we can go into a research upgrade. Here we want to produce something as well. Our happiness is fine. We don't need to consider the botanical gardens right now. Let's just go into another Echo Walker. We have the resources for it. And we're going to want to get those Echo Walkers modded up after. I do them manually because usually I don't have enough Cosmite to produce them right out of the factory. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. I try to do them slowly at a time if I can. Okay, and we can level up. We can spend our points. Sinister Chorus will allow us to do a melee, basically a melee range debuff, reducing damage resistance by our opponents and their accuracy by 20%. This works well with the melee ability. Again, Infantry Commander. I am an Infantry Commander right now. These guys will get 10% more damage. Very powerful ability, like I was mentioning before. And we'll go with Close Quarter Specialist because he is a melee hero after all. We should be thinking about taking an X territory with IXI. And we should have something in this general direction. A little bit farther away with these guys. So we can move this, split up the stack, move them closer to this general area. We are going to take this Megalux Cityscape, interesting name, next turn? If we can get there next turn. Next 2 turns or so. That's fine. Alright, end turn. Might be 1 turn too far. Yeah, looks like we're 1 turn too far there. That's okay. So we'll get it next turn. Okay. Auto combat should almost finish up our research here. Alright, so we have an option. Sometimes you'll get this option, what do you want to get? Again, we already discussed we have no ruins here, so that's 10% of 0. That's 0. Of course, I'll go for the diplomatic analysis wing. Allows more influence points to potentially buy away our opponents, or use it to trade for some units and items, or to take over colonies. Alright, more rewards. And more rewards. That's great. Production. Move it over. Alright, so we're just going to keep going down. Toxic Applications, one of my favorite mods for damage. Plus 20% damage, and we'll apply a debuff to reduce morale, which is going to reduce their chance to hit and their crit rate, and make them easier to hit for us for 3 turns. Okay, we'll continue up here. We'll grab this stash pick up here, just some production. Scout. Okay, and end our turn. So I'll tell you one of the combos already with the Echo Walkers and why these guys are amazing. Again, we can prioritize these initially. This is going to be more of an early game thing, but I'll put it on now just because we're still in the early game, trying to get ourselves toward the mid game. We're not really going to be at war right now because we're going to be fighting against the AI, so the AI is not very aggressive early on compared to actual human players, but I'll simulate it as if this was a multiplayer game when we're fighting real players, and they could be aggressive. So we'll go for these. Cloaking and Punch not very important for them because they already have the evasion, defense mode evasion, which makes them harder to hit. But this will give me an additional shield, plus 3 shield, that makes them super tanky, and they can heal themselves in combat because they have the same ability, Assimilate, like the scavengers do. Now, one of my strategies is to equip the Void Walkers with Echo Walkers rather, with the emergency Quantric shielding. When they die, they are immune to damage, and they get left at 1 health instead. And that's nice because even when these Echo Walkers use their Quantum Echo and the clone lasts 2 turns, the clone won't actually die. They'll last more than 2 turns using that modification, and those that would die will trigger that armor bonus, that modification, and be left at 1 health and immune to all damage, and still act as a body for your opponents to target. And basically, instead of lasting 2 turns, now they last infinitely long, which is very strong. Okay, we finish up this research here. We'll go into area surveillance like we discussed. Enter Operation Effectiveness 1. Okay. We can just cycle around a little bit. Get our bearings. Just look for another target that we can kill. 340. We're at 315. Annex this. And we can take this out as well. Click on that. Click hazard removal. 100 energy, 15 cosmite. That will take 3 turns. That's okay. Spacers will trade up the cosmite for 47. We'll be at 47 in 2 turns. Something to consider. Alright, 340, easy kill. Keep the research cycling. And we got a whole bunch of rewards here. Finish up another research. So look how much research I finished up just by battling. Using that combat, that's going to be your bread and butter. Combat needs to be done every turn or every other turn. And you're really going to be looking for those opportunities to get into combat. If your health is at 100%, you're not being very efficient. So we leveled up. We have 6 skill points. Again, this is going to be our ground commander. We are mostly doing close quarters. We're doing close quarter damage. Let's get a little bit of hit points. I do value vitality a lot more on melee commanders than I do on range commanders. Why? Because, of course, if you're closer in combat and melee, you can be targeted a lot easier than if you are a ranged sniper or a ranged rifler, for example. So I do value that. Close quarter specialist, just more damage done. Melee does a ton of damage, so even 10% more will add up quickly. Alright, keep going here. Scouting around still. Nothing too special. And we can end our turn. IXI is finished, so we have the option to... What I would like to do right away is this is a production colony. We see double lightning bolt, but we also see production here and production here. So this is going to be more of a production colony. So we want to just, even though it is more efficient to go for energy here, I will prioritize what the colony is really made for. I made this my production colony. I will choose production over here, even though it's not as efficient in efforts, because I'm not going to put my workers toward energy, to the energy nodes. I want to, when it's not on auto, ideally. I want to, at least toward the end game, mid-game, end game, I want to cycle it toward production and get all of my people in that general direction. In the early game, it's okay. If you keep it on auto, you have one guy on energy. That's okay. Sometimes I keep at least one. Sometimes I like to do all of them, but if I'm not lazy, or I'll try to keep at least my HQ under manual tab and just choose exactly what I want to have on there. Okay, so let's take a look. We have the Echo Walker still being able to produce. Take a look every once in a while over here. See if there's any useful building, Cosmite Center, a diplomatic research wing. Everything is built, everyone's happy. This is why I'm not prioritizing production, because everything is already being built and building just as fine. My guys are coming out at a relatively quick 2-turn, 3-turn building speed, and I don't need these guys right away to come out unless I'm going for some kind of rush tactic. And if I was going for a rush tactic, I would have had the production instead of the research on them, and they would be coming out fast anyways as well. Okay, mod them slowly over time, and we can get these guys together. So now you'll see that I have kind of a, what I'm doing here is I have one cluster of units in this by my base. I have HQ here, second colony here, third colony here. I have my reinforcements, or the people that are just coming out, kind of acting as like a defense against NPCs in this general area. I have my second hero. He has his own squad. He's not going to be grouped up with my main hero. He's going to be doing his own thing, getting his own commander buffs. And he's going to be over here with this reinforcement that's going to join him in a second. And I have, of course, my... This is why you'd like to have that stronger starting army, is because you can do things like go out here and just do solo hunting without having so many resources put into military right away. And you can start accruing more and more interest for your research. And so they're all kind of doing their own thing, in other words. So he's fighting up here. My other commander's fighting down here. I have my guys that are just newly produced kind of protecting the borders while they're grouping up and getting a little bit stronger, because by themselves they're weak. So they need to like regroup with each other, or maybe I can supplement these guys to my commander that's just starting out with only 2 or 3 guys later on. So I'm just kind of slowly using my movements to connect the lines. If you think about it like this, if he only has 5 movements, I can only go here, but that's being supplemented by the fact that these guys over here can kind of bridge that gap and go here. So even though it may look like I'm all scattered, what I'm really doing is keeping myself in a line that allows myself to traverse my entire base relatively in 1 or 2 turns tops. So he can, essentially, I'm connected to my HQ, even though he's like 6 turns away. He can cover this effective distance. This guy can cover in a circle. It works like this. In a circle, I can cover this. He can cover in a circle like this. And my commander over here, again, has a bit of a circle radius. So I'm trying to cover as much distance in that circle as I can, and keeping my base in that circle area so that I have some protection within 1 turn, 2 turns max to get my guys properly situated. While still, of course, going out there and fighting NPCs and getting myself that research gain. We said this is going to be an energy town, so we're making energy here to take advantage of not only this power plant, but also the double lightning bolt here. This is going to give us plus 5 additional energy when we have an energy exploitation. We said 47 as well will be when we want to talk to these guys, which is next turn. We want to be in that area to do that, so we're going to move over here, and we'll be able to talk to them in 2 turns. Okay, scout. So I've pretty much explored the entire map by now. I have almost all the pickups, because everything, as you can see, the map has been thoroughly explored. I should have the majority of all the pickups that were available so far, and that should be it. Once I'm done with that, I'll get them home and regroup. Let's take a look at our colony overview, make sure everything is producing something. Yes, it is, for at least 1 more turn, so we can end our turn. Research is finished. I already finished up Operation Effectiveness, which means my doctrine is available. I can go into the Echo Protocols, which increases my economy just by a little bit. If you want to see what that looks like, we can take a look at our colony overview. We can see, okay, we have got 26, 28, 40, 100, 60, 80, 5, 0, 85. And this is basically, we'll just get a little bit more when we enact that doctrine. Plus 1 additional resource per colonist working on it. So I'm prioritizing research and production, of course, so you'll notice the biggest gain when that finishes next turn in these 2 areas. So just to clarify as well with the doctrines up here, I don't always just bum rush these endgame researches. The reason why it takes 92 turns to get this finished, 57 turns, you'll see me do a lot of mid-tier hopping around. I'll go to one thing, I'll go back, do up here, down here a little bit. You're going to want to do that. You're going to want to hybrid it out for your specific situation and not exactly go down one tree and finish it off. That's different than military, where I often do that. I'll do a few hybrid, one here, and then I'll go down an entire line. And that's because you get so much value out of strengthening and specializing rather than just going pure hybrid in military as opposed to your economy. So hybrid's okay and even better in society, but not as effective in military. Alright, so here, what do we want to do? Doesn't really matter so much. I will want some Cosmite eventually. There's a Cosmite growth chamber here. Fertile plains, we do have fertile plains. Let's just go for that for the movement speed bonus. We will have additional, we basically will have an additional movements that we can take while going back home because we have fertile plains in this area. Well, somewhere in this area. Some of them do. We definitely don't have any ruins or anything like that. Here's the fertile plains. There we go. We found it. We saw the name somewhere. It just means that we can go home faster. We can use more efficient moves to traverse our territories. We can see that we're at 12. Divide that by 4. We are able to take another sector. If we zoom out quickly, we can see, okay, we have a cutout here. 1, 2, not including the HQ itself. We can take another area, another base. And we're going to want to do that as well. Let's see what we have in the area. This guy's going to go get the Cosmite. He's kind of accounted for. This guy's kind of, again, he's in the middle. He's defending. And what's nice about having these guys in the middle and having the circle that I was talking about is they can do those things, like go back and do those mundane tasks, like go back and take a sector for a land that's ready to annex a new sector. So then that's his job now. He was on base defense, he was on regroup, now he's on taking territory. And you'll see me do this all the time in multiplayer, where I don't necessarily have one guy just standing around waiting to take territory, but I want to be as efficient as possible and take this as soon as I can with what I can, while still going out there and attacking and doing everything simultaneously. So I'm just trying to progress in all the ways that I can possibly do. Alright, so from here, again, more Echo Walkers. I want to have at least 3 or 4 Echo Walkers in the early game toward the mid game, and then that will be more than enough power. That will be a very strong army to protect me until I get my later game tech. Let's regroup here, get these guys together. Hey, thanks for that follow. Oh my god, I'm gonna butcher that name, but I'll give it a try. Zedenjika, welcome. Thanks for the follow. Thanks for hanging out. Welcome, buddy. All right, so again, just looking for. We have pretty much all the resources. We have nothing left here. We're basically got everything. So let's just keep going, looking around. Hey, maybe we found some research. There we go. One of the last drops on the map. Let's take out that research. Here we go. Let's take a look. This is 300. Well, maybe we could take the 300. That's fine. That's a spawner. We'll end our turn here. Make sure everything is in production. It is. And turn. Alright, so we attack. That's fine. Let's take a look. So, our AI friend has declared war on us, and that's okay. That is okay. But when we do have a war deck, what we want to do is kind of regroup, get our bearings. We don't really know, in this case, where his armies are, and that's okay. We have a scout, but we're not expected to know where his stuff is here. Let's see if our scout can get any information, though. And I'll just keep going. Get that research. Alright, and this is going to be when I can showcase these Echo Walkers. And I'm looking forward to that. And before I get wrecked by the AI. He is on hard, just saying. No, but I won't get wrecked. I'm gonna wreck him, I'm pretty sure. So we'll take the sector here. It's going to be a research colony. So we see a lot of research here. And we can use these production later on. It doesn't mean just because it's a research colony that we can't build units from it. You see me building units from it. Because research just means that I can passively gain the research. But I can always make buildings or units from this simultaneously. I also want to prioritize the military research if I can. Okay, grab this. Cosmite. Cosmite goes to 15 now. For the mid-game, 15-20, perfect, what you want. For the end game, you're going to want to have 35 and 40, and that would be perfect. So 15-20 is where you want to be in the mid-game. 35-40 is where you want to be toward the end game. I've had games where I even went to 50. That's overkill. It is overkill. But I like to have Cosmite. And not even because I always need that much Cosmite, but I like to bully players in multiplayer, preventing them from having the Cosmite. So it's more of a resource that I take away from others, and I can control it myself. Just because if I take it away from them, they have less powerful armies. Okay. This is finished. This is our exploit. So this is the part where I'm thinking to myself, okay, let me get some additional military infrastructure. This is going to allow my guys to hold their own when my armies are busy fighting the AI that just war decked me. Now I'm thinking about it to myself. I'm in the mid game. I want to start getting some additional infrastructure on some of these weaker colonies, especially the forward bases that are up by themselves, the ones that are more likely to be attacked, not the ones that are in the center necessarily. Obviously, Foranoid, he's in the middle, so IX-8 will be getting attacked first, and I want to prioritize that. And maybe this one, QY core, maybe getting hit from the side. So I want to prioritize the peripheral bases, the ones on the outskirts, with more military, rather than the ones in the middle, who will make it get hit later. 453, 340, so this should be an easy kill. Low risk battle, we'll take that. Got a research. Alright, and now I'm thinking to myself, I'm still in war. I want to still kind of move my units a little bit closer together, just in case a gigantic army starts showing up out of nowhere. This is like my second AI game ever, by the way, guys. So I actually don't even know what he's gonna do. It's gonna be interesting. End turn. We'll get that research later as well. So this is just finished producing my Echo Walker. Make sure he's modded. Yes, he is modded. Everything looks good. Now you may be thinking, okay, why am I not equipping these other mods? Well, the Flesh Terror is okay if you're doing a rush strategy. It's not a bad mod. It's just that I would rather have my Neurotoxic, this one that's finishing up now in one turn, Toxic Applications, the Neurotoxic Implants. I don't really need 2 damage mods, but it's okay. What I would like to do, and this is more of a... What I would like to do is finish up the Quantric Tech Tree as soon as I can, and then maybe consider going into these grenades later on for those Void guys. And this is something you can play around with. There's no wrong answer. If you wanted to go into the grenades first and then go down this line, that's perfectly fine too. In fact, it may even be better depending on the type of situation you're running into. If you're running into earlier aggression, the grenades might be a better choice. If you're thinking that you're going to be playing a game where you have less conflict and you can finish a tree before hitting a war, then go down to the main line. That would be fine as well. Okay. Get these guys out because we're still getting our research upgraded. Look at that. Beautiful bonus there. And look at that. We're not that far away from finishing this line. It does say 39 turns, which is a long time, but between us getting into combat and getting those rewards and reducing this tree, it's sooner than you think. Don't always look at just the number you see at the end. Again, this is Cosmite Chamber. I'm prioritizing more Cosmite toward the mid-game, end-game. I see Stash Pickup, but I don't really want to go there with everything. We'll go there with just one thing here. Grab that, and we'll try to regroup like we were discussing. We can go up this way, because we still have... Oh, this is the Spacers. This is a nice little colony as well. We see Cosmite here. Some additional stuff here. And we do have enough Cosmite to the point where we can consider even going and grabbing another colony. Because look at this. This is a beautiful sector. We have Cosmite. We have double energy. So we can make this an energy Cosmite sector as well. That would be nice for us. So this is our main production facility. Alright, I'll show you guys what you can do. Just because I think it's useful. Let's see if we have anything neighboring us. Okay, we do. Okay. So we can see another Cosmite area, which is linking the Forenoid. So one thing to consider as well, I know there's so many things to consider, but in terms of your expansion, you can only expand up to 2 sectors away. Luckily for us, this is within 2 sectors of Forenoid. If you zoom out, you'll see 1, 2, which means we can't actually take this one. It's too far away from us. But we can go 2 away in basically every direction. 2 sectors away from the main colony that you founded. And that's obviously going to be good because it's Cosmite. We want to prioritize Cosmite. So we'll get our hero over there in 2 turns or so. And then we can just go for the colonizer. Since it takes 2 turns to get there, we don't need to worry about it because we're going to have the growth in 2 turns as well. Okay. Nothing special then, I suppose. This is a guy we can talk to for energy, but we want to get the Cosmite first. Actually, you know what? This is a Autonom war, so we can't actually negotiate with these people. We need to kill them. So in light of that, what I will do immediately then is talk to these, get my energy gain up from 65. We'll get that to 80. Now we're getting more energy, and then we're just gonna regroup and attempt to kill these Autonom friends. Alright, so we took that sector, we're heading over. And that'll be good because it lines up with our modification finishing as well. So if we want to, we can start equipping those mods that I was just discussing. Well, do we finish it? I thought we finished it. Hold on. Or do I just get that on my scavengers? Where are my scavengers? Oh, there they are. Alright. Neurotoxic. There it is. Perfect. So we need more before we can apply it to everybody. But we can apply it to some people, not all of them. We don't have enough money to apply it to everybody. So you can do this manually because I can't click on that button yet because I don't have enough Cosmite. But I can do it on a few people at a time. And then do it manually like that. That's okay. Alright, we see this. This isn't necessarily useful, but I thought it was going to be more useful. It's not. I thought this was Cosmite. It's actually just an ion storm hazard. Not useful for us. End turn. This is probably a demand. They want us to build something, but we're going to decline that because these quests where you build or research, I think they're the worst quests. They don't give you experience on your army or your hero, and they tie up your own research and production. So I decline build and research quests 99% of the time. The only time I would recommend them is if you're really trying to get your favor up for a faction to farm their specific items or units or mods right away for one reason or another. Alright, we'll see. Get this here. Oh, it's a Sentinel. Alright, we'll take the Sentinel this time around. We'll take him this time around because we are in war, another body, and we can use the movements. We can use the movements. 600, 33. This one I won't take. This fight I won't take. Because even though my power is higher, he's got the numbers on my since I've split up my crew to an extent here. But it's okay. I don't want to make myself too weak for the war. His power 130 in this area. Okay, he's not looking like he's home. Oh, there he is. 823. Let's see what he has here. He's modding up for. Okay, nothing too special. So a lot of melee scavengers. One of the absorb pain tanks, and his hero is going to be basically a sniper. 9 range here. So you should keep those in mind for when you're developing your strategy. Like, okay, what does his army look like if I'm able to spot it? And that's okay. Okay, move these guys here. We'll group toward this direction. Fornoid is getting up. Okay. And we will effectively end our turn. Alright, so we have a beautiful amount of Echo Walkers. We pretty much have enough Echo Walkers now. We can go for our turrets, more defenses, and make sure everything's in production and end our turn. That's okay. He's attacking me. We can't stop that. We scouted what we needed to scout there. But in this case, since he's basically in the area, we can consider dropping a monitor here to keep an eye on his army movement since he's moving in this general direction. So what I can do is take this for now, for Fornoid. I can worry about these Autonom buddies later. Because he's about to head over here for about 989. So I should be thinking to myself, okay, I should be getting these army units together and having a power of at least 989 to meet him in combat here. And do I have everything I need? Now's the time to be thinking, do I have all my mods? And I do. I have everything I need. And I have my main army coming back somewhere, wherever they are. Shouldn't be too far from home. There they are. Not too far from home. I'll be home in 3 turns. Right. Just give him that 30 energy. Make sure everything's producing. Everything is producing. Hero join offer. So I have a chance to get another hero, but my money's a little bit low. Let's see if I have any items I can sell and get that hero. I have a Volt rifle, which I think could be a nice rifle for her. And if I don't have enough things to sell, I could end my turn and get her next turn. That's okay. That's perfectly fine. We got her this turn. Move her real closer. So in terms of the situation where I have basically 2 full groups now. I have my main group. I have my secondary group, which is full as well. Full of Voidwalkers. We have some ranged DPS here, Sniper, Electrocutioner. another scavenger. I can equip this hero with the Vault Rifle, add some range DPS. Still prioritize Infantry Commander. It's still going to be value, even if you don't have another army for this, and I don't have another army for this hero yet. It will be value town later on. And I can make one more specialized into range. Trying to cover the holes a little bit. I have one that's already a close. I have two that are close range specialist. Let's make this one more of a long range specialist. And we'll go steady aim maybe. Let's take a look. 7. It's pretty high range. Get ourselves into cover would be more accurate. At 7 range, it's pretty. It's almost a sniper. Halfway there.
Task completed.
So we finish this. This is nice. It's a nice doctrine to have as well if you finish it early enough. Alright, let's take a look. Take a look at his movement, see how far he can move. He can threaten nothing yet, except for this. This is fine. If he wants to waste his army attacking that, that's perfectly fine for us. And let's get ourselves close enough to be defensible in many of these locations. Okay. Get our guys home. get our scout out here. You can even keep the scout in the water, which would be a nice way for us to, because he can't engage what's in the water immediately. Alright, make sure our production is good. Everything is making something. If we wanted to, we can scale up our production, and that's probably what I'll do this turn around. I'll start scaling up my production. Prioritize that. Prioritize happiness. Like this. And then I'll really start cranking out more units here. And I'll make an electrocutioner for more range DPS, because we've already made a lot of frontline. We have a lot of echo walkers. We still have our scavengers from early on in the game. We have our we even have our melee commanders. So now's the time we're thinking to ourselves, okay, we need more backline range DPS. And he runs away. He's like, whoa, I don't like what I'm seeing here. He's too scary. That's fine. Colonizer finished, but the important thing was I was ready to defend. If he does decide to attack. Okay. So it's going to take 2 turns to get there. Put this guy together. Alright. Now we can still stay grouped up because he can easily just do this back and forth movement. So we don't want to just say, okay, alert's over. Let's start running away. Keep your guys together and still go into NPC farming if you can, and I will start targeting these guys while getting up our infrastructure for military here, because like I said, this is my forward base. This is going to be the first thing that gets attacked. What is the strength of this? 730? Okay. Good to know. Where does this go? Oh, look at that. Beautiful. Teleported that goes right to my base. I didn't even know I had that. Perfect. I'll take it. Keep an eye on over here. See what I can find. R2. Let's move over here. And make sure everything's producing, and end my turn. He's coming back. He's kind of doing like a ping pong thing, which is more of an AI thing as opposed to an actual player thing. Alright, there's an attacking autonom army. Not too worried about that. You can hit M, which is a hotkey to move. And this is nice to do in case you're like me and you're playing multiplayer very quickly and you misclick a bunch. You can just hit M, it'll automatically take it on its trajected route without you clicking and missing. So, and when you click M, you can also right-click your mouse to make it go faster. Okay. So, nothing too worrisome here. I'm just going to prioritize a few more units. Electrocutioner, I have the resources. Now, you'll notice right away as well that my Electrocutioner, he's unmodded. There's a reason for this. He doesn't really benefit from these other mods here. He's not a tank. Doesn't need defense mode evasion. He can use this, but it's not amazing on him. Phase walk module, again, not amazing on him. He benefits from late game arc modules. He benefits from this tree, arc, and not only that, he benefits from it later toward the end. So he's a lot harder to really mod until later on. That's why I also prioritize assembly for the melee, because this is really going to be applied to a lot of your units. It could be applied to Scavenger, it could be applied to Echo Walker, it'll be applied to Wreckers, it can even be applied to Heroes if you want to go down that route. Speaking of Heroes, let's make sure I have my own mods nice here. I can choose to go through the melee mods here if I want to. I could go to Flash Terror modules, or I can even go down to Phase Walker modules. These are things I can consider with my heroes. Make them harder to hit, gain some shields. Let's put on the Phase Walk modulator for now. And we can give ourselves a Flash Terror. And we can give the other hero I have, that other mod that we took off my main. And we should be giving our main as well a secondary weapon. Maybe not a grenade. We'll see. That doesn't inflict stagger. Pistol could be good. Who knows? We'll see. We'll see what happens here. We're not too worried about this attacking army. It's 1009, but it's, again, he can attack this. 500. Nothing too scary. What I do want to do is showcase some of the combat with the Echo Walkers. Get this guy lined up here. We'll get this guy here. Alright, so now let's go make sure everything's producing. Yes, it is. Research is done. Let's show the battle a little bit here with the Echo Walkers and what they are capable of, in a sense. So the Echo Walkers are going to be extremely powerful because they have that clone ability. They get stronger as the game goes on because I do have my other mods I can give them that makes them stronger. And they're just very tanky. They do have good damage on their own. And what's nice about them, they only need 1 point to utilize this clone ability. So you can put them as far as you want to, just to act annoying. Look at them and say, hey, look, I'm going to go into tank mode. Make myself harder to hit. They're going to last for 2 turns until I get my in-game mods. Defense mode. We're basically just going to do a defense mode round for the most part here. You can hit 2 to change your... See how these guys are facing me, my side? That means they can be shot from the back and get flanked. So what I do is I hit 2, and then right-click the way I want them to face, this green line. That'll change their direction so they don't get flanked. Do that before you hit defense motivation. Knowing the hotkeys as well will make you a little bit faster. So now, interestingly enough, I can get this guy into the red. And this is nice. Sometimes you don't always want to go to the blue and go into evasion or defense mode. Sometimes I just really want to get my scavengers in position, and I don't care about evasion. I just want to get them closer to the combat and just end my turn. But I do want the Echo Walkers to save 1 point so I can activate my clones. These guys will tank, and if they take any damage, if they die, it doesn't matter, they're clones, so they're more than welcome to die and take damage. Right, anyway, end turn, end turn. So now what he's capable of doing. So he's attacking one of these clones, which is in essence does nothing, as we discussed. Get a crit here, and they start healing themselves. So this guy has already healed himself almost. He's got more than half hit points now after taking a lot of damage, and that's partially why it's so strong. Alright, top reasons to play Assembly, top 3 reasons. They really scale with, they're an aggressive playstyle. They scale more with player skill, in my opinion, than the other races, especially races like Vanguard. I really feel like when you increase your level of understanding of the game, Assembly will be one of the stronger races to play. and that will help you win other situations as well. There's a lot more going on with assembly, I feel, in terms of their synergy. I feel like a lot of assembly units have a ton more synergy than the other races. They lend themselves to really working alongside each other, buffing each other. Their ranges work well. One is a frontline tank, one is a back range DPS. Some of them are just more tanky, some of them are artillery. While every race has generally kind of this kind of pattern, some of them are lacking that frontline tank a little bit more than others. Some of them are prioritizing too much backline DPS, like the VAR, which are more on the extremely defensive side. Assembly really synergizes well. So that's another reason I think that you can really play around with them, is once you understand a lot of these abilities, you can get a lot of these combinations out that other players may be really surprised that you can come up with. Last night, I was just playing a game that even my opponent said, wow, I'm very surprised that you were able to come through this. You were able to put this strategy together. And he was surprised that I had as much combat potential as I did for that battle. And I guess another reason to play assembly is they're fun, right? They're essentially the bad guys. Lore-wise, right? We're here to conquer. We're here to take over. What more do you need to know? Okay, so this is generally when I also know which ones are the real ones and try to keep these guys alive. I'll be a little bit more reserved with my real Echo Walkers as opposed to the clones, because the clones will just die. But the real ones, well, the real ones, I want to keep alive. Oof. Beautiful crit. Beautiful crit. Okay. Move over here. I mean, from here, which is pretty easy. Get close, use the fence mode. And end my turn. Don't bother wasting your tactics on NPCs, unless it's like an AI game and there's only NPCs, of course. Save it for the real competition, because they do cost energy. And look at that. These Echo Walkers timed out, they're gone. Now when I have my in-game mods, that will no longer be the case. And yeah, these guys can become, with the mod, everyone can become integrated. Just saw that question now. Alright, so let's get over here. Let's activate this free action. Increase the target. I wonder if I can increase my own target. Alright, so maybe I can't increase my own targets. Alright, that's okay. So let's get ourselves a little bit closer. Again, he's being very defensive as well. He wants to hide. Alright, so let's increase our damage. Free action. Let's attack that. Heal ourselves. Interestingly enough, this weapon also does healing. Feast, heal for 5 to 10 when damaging biological or cyborg units. Actually, I want to make sure that's working, because I never really verified that. Hit graze on that one. Come over here. Defense mode. I wonder if I could finish him off. Probably could. Let's come over here. 95% chance to finish him off. And he's finished. Face the right way, and then use defense mode. And turn. And now if it's the last turn, the last thing I want to do is not only kill my opponent, but also try to get myself, if possible, as many hit points as I can recovered. So it says I can't reach the target, which is probably enough. Yeah, 1 too many away. Alright, so let's take a look at this and make sure this is working. So I have the ability Assimilate, which allows me to heal for 6 units, or 6 health per attack. And I also have this weapon, heal for 5 to 10 when damaging. So at the very least, I should be healing for 11. 5 plus 6 is 11 when damaging biological or cyborg. Is this a biological or cyborg? It's a mechanical, so it wouldn't proc on this guy. Never mind. Okay, so I would only get the Assimilate bonus here. That's what's going on. That's why I'm only seeing 6 instead of 11. Okay. Cooldown. Get ourselves close. Scavengers can use shotgun. These guys are hard to click. Defense mode. Defense mode. Oops. And what's nice is the shotgun only uses 1 point, so feel free to get as close as you'd like to get, really. And then use the shotgun. Then you can just finish him off.
Enemy annihilated.
So the shotgun doesn't get any bonus damage if you have 3 actions, 2 actions, 1 action left. It does the same amount of damage, so get as close as you want to go and still have 1 action point. That's perfectly fine. Right, now we are chilling for a bit. I'm interested to see what the AI will try to do. His only real possibility is to attack Megalux, which I think we're okay with that. We're okay with that. And we can take out this army next turn as well. Actually, let's just sit on that for a second. We can supplement our militia in case the Autonom army tries to attack us here. So make sure everything is in production. Everything is in production. And then we can end our turn. We see a secondary army here, 426. And this is nothing too bad. Alright, so if possible, we would like to get rid of this army as quick as we can. So let's prioritize that army. And we'll hit auto for now just to keep the battle going, the pace of the video quicker. Let's make sure we can take a look at our upkeep, see our main base. We're starting to see happiness go down a little bit, so we can say, okay, you know what, I want to prioritize colonist care, which is going to give us some happiness slots later on in the game. Once we start seeing our happiness kind of start dipping down, we can start making decisions like that. Cosmic Growth Chambers would be great for us. Production facility here. We're basically making everything that we need to be making at this stage in the game, but let's keep making a Scavenger, 1 turn, easy production, fully modded, very cheap, very effective. We have our level up here. Cybernetic Overdrive is great. And we will save up the rest of the points. Alright, so we'll see which army does not have a commander. This army does not have a commander. We'll attach this to this forward commander. The scout is kind of just scouting. He is ready to advance, get closer. And you'll see as the game progresses, and with the past research, I'm able to move further in my own domain. This helps me get closer toward my defense or toward the enemy and keep myself relatively in shape with movement. Alright, so we have 3 strong armies, 1,000, 700, 700, a couple lingering forces, 100 here, 100 there, scout, and colonizer. Still colonizing, I suppose. Get that. Okay. And now I'm just going to basically keep my forces relatively together, intact. And this one is able to take another sector, actually. So which one would I like to take? Probably this one, double energy. Double lightning bolt here. Let's see if I can get there. Move one guy over and take that next turn. Alright, so everything is fine. I'm gonna scale down food and scale up research. Scale down energy, scale up research as well. And that's good for now. It is a research colony, and I do want my research. Okay. Alright, so nothing else to do here. End turn. Right. AI can be silly. This is Only I usually don't play against the AI. This is only my second game against the AI, to be honest. But that's okay. I'm pretty sure this is going to be a smash for us. AI can't handle our skill. Especially with our scavengers. And you want to generally have some semblance of an idea of what composition you want. So scavengers are your tanks. Echo walkers are your tanks. You want to have your back line, maybe electrocutioner, maybe a vorpal sniper, and one of your groups as well. I have a sentinel here. I have an electrocutioner here. This one has a sniper and an electrocutioner. This is another scavenger frontline tank. He only has one tank, so let's draw the... Oh, actually, I wanted to expand with that one. Oops. I was going to say, let's get the scavenger together and get him piled up, but I forgot I was trying to expand. Too many things happening at once there. So we still need to expand. Alright, so this is... I just took out the autonom. Let's take out this food colony as well. Get our research up. And then that one's taken care of. Take all the things. And I'm also... since the AI is pretty much driven off, I can pretty much hold the AI with just these two forces so that I can just keep farming, just keep going. Don't always keep them relatively close in case the AI commits, in this case, or even a player commits, but don't stop doing something. Don't stop farming the research with your attacks. Don't stop farming experience on your hero. Reactor cores, since there's a lot of energy nearby, make this an energy colony. And since this is so forward, we're definitely going to want to prioritize the military infrastructure here as well, later on. Notice my HQ, still no infrastructure here at all, no military. I'm really saving it for those forward bases to get that military, because it does cost upkeep, it does cost production time. Things to consider. Right. And make sure everything's good, and turn. So we're gonna go here next as well. he tries to take that. That's funny. And we're just continuously getting into research, getting higher level. Don't care about that so much. We can sell that for additional energy. Take this guy out again. And now this army is pretty much invincible. Like, we take no damage now on this army. It's just too big. It's got mods. It's got promotions. So these guys, when they rank up, they have additional hit points. They have additional accuracy as well. Full action round snipers aren't great. What is your experience with snipers whose actions are full round? So keep in mind, actions that are full round, they're usually very damaging. They're usually very powerful. They come at a cost that if you even lose an action point, you can't use the ability. So I would definitely prioritize having some level of modification that prioritizes stagger resistance, or an army that has stagger resistance in it, so that you won't get your action points knocked down. I've tried snipers, and snipers can be strong, especially I'm gonna do a guide with some snipers in advance, so we're gonna see what that looks like. I've been hitting 40 plus damage non-crit 40 plus with snipers. And it can be incredibly devastating, especially if you have enough of them. If you give your heroes to snipers, if you make vorpal snipers, if you go a sniper build, if you have that synergy, it can be incredibly devastating. That being said, you can be weaker to stagger. You can be weak to AoE if you don't have enough AoE damage, because snipers do not do any AoE damage. So it really depends on who you're fighting. Obviously, it depends on the situation. Can it work? Definitely. Can it be devastating? Definitely. But you need to take advantage of the situation, and you need to definitely account for your weaknesses, which will be your melee would be, you don't want to be in melee range, and you don't want to have to worry about AoE damage. You need to worry about single target firing. Just know your strengths, know your weaknesses. As always, there are some pros and cons to pretty much everything. Okay, let's move forward here. Get ourselves close together. And let's get the sector finally, before I forget for the third time. Alright, and make sure everything's producing. Yeah, it is. Try to get this happiness accounted for if we can. So we hit minus research here, +1 happiness. And we're good to end our turn. Some snipers will have, like the vorpal snipers will have an action that they can do that is single action. which is going to be your blind shot and well, the blind shot only. Concussive will be a 3-pointer. But they do have something at least. I'll show you what I mean. The blinding snapshot is a single action, so you are able to move forward and still get a shot off, which is still something. The blind is a 40% accuracy debuff. It's not my favorite one, especially in a longer drawn-out fight, particularly because it's lower range. You can see that's 9 range, that's 9 range, that's still 7 range. I wish the blinding snapshot still had 9 range, but I don't know why they did that necessarily, but yeah, it is something to consider. So even though you do have a single action, moving yourself forward may not be viable still because of the snapshot is still 7 range. Just something to consider. Okay. Get energy for my exploitation, and everything is good. Everything's looking easy here. Get this done. Now this is an 864, but I'm expecting my guys to kind of prevail here. I do lose one guy. That's okay.
Objective completed.
Gas bomb, random stuff. We usually just sell stuff like gas bombs and random things for additional energy. And that's okay. We only lose a scavenger. The downside is he was ranked up. Unit preservation is more important in general because even if I produce another scavenger, and I will produce another scavenger, it's the problem is that he's not as ranked up, so he's not as powerful, unfortunately. But that's okay. Ends justify the means. I'm able to get my research a little bit faster. My hero levels up easier. Devour Hope is just a nice ability here. Takes away health. So basically, I get more health for my caster. Just nice little, especially for a melee. Has some range to it, so I don't need to be as weak necessarily. I can give myself a little bit of sustain. Nani boosters plus 3 resistance to myself and my army. Very powerful. I get that on every commander. So here I can do an assist. 4 movement points here, 2 here. 1700, 800 should be easy battle for me. Handle food sharing. Food sharing isn't something I prioritize that much on assembly. I do it more for other races like Kirko. I did food sharing, which can make your main colony super powerful. It can produce a lot of things in one turn, using the Kirko's racial for using food as their production. Assembly, I don't do food sharing as much. You can definitely use it. It's just not really as important. It's not even as useful because I don't prioritize food usually ever as assembly. I usually don't make a food colony, and since you don't make a food colony, I do prioritize food in terms of my additional colonist management at the beginning, but food sharing, not very important one way or another with assembly, in my opinion. Could it be done? Yes. Have I tried it? Yes. Was it impactful compared to my current strategy of just choosing to get food here with a dedicated food colony? The answer is no. It wasn't very impactful one way or another. Shield modulator plus 1 shield for my entire army. Really just easy pick. Any of these major tanking skills that you can get for everybody, it's just too much value to pass up instead of just the 10% damage for yourself. All right, we see a colony here from our opponent. Interesting. We're just gonna potentially put ourselves in a position to threaten that. Make sure everybody's modded up that we can give mods to. This guy is not modded up, so we're gonna give him some mods, the appropriate mods here. That'll take 1 turn to finish, which is fine because next turn we can go there. Okay. You know, let's put these guys in the mountains so that we have a little bit more vision. We're high enough now to the point in the mountains that the opponent can't just easily attack us. He has to use movement points, and we have a little bit more vision. The inspector here taking advantage of that flying to get to the mountain. Make sure everything is production. Hydrogen core is not producing anything, so we can see that by the lightning bolt here. So let's go to there and make sure that we're gonna give it some more military. We said that's a forward base. We don't want to worry about it getting attacked by NPCs or the NPC faction that we're at war with necessarily here. Everything else is good. We can end our turn. My food is on prevent deficit. My food is just on prevent deficit on all of my colonies. I keep it on that pretty much always. Our botanical gardens, we can produce that so we can avoid unhappiness. We basically just get the minimum amount of happiness so that our colonies can thrive and not worried about unhappiness events. When I'm playing my game, I never have unhappiness events, and that's what you want. You don't want to. You will get happiness events, but you don't care about them. You just want to avoid unhappiness events. So something I do here, I just go into research development. So this one here, it's not important really. The expedited learning center, not too important, but I do want to get the research sector level up. That's where assembly really can benefit. You know, getting those endgame modules, getting that research up faster, that's your advantage as well. Some people may have more of a production, more of a swarm, Kirkle. Some people may have more defensive backline, Devar, you know, more defensive footing. You play your strengths. Now, you're going to be good at melee, you're going to be good at sustain, you're going to be good at research, and getting those powerful mods earlier on. Okay, so what was I doing here? Unhappiness is fine. Everything's good. We have enough resources. We can keep producing units at this point. There's no right or wrong answer in terms of how many units you want. Right now in the game, I have my general idea is my general thinking for military is okay. If I have 3 commanders, I want to have 3 full squads. I don't want to leave a commander by himself when it's time to hire a commander and think to myself, that should be a general pacing for you. If you have a commander and you don't have the military to make him a full squad, you should be producing more units. Because that gives you that pacing for when you recruit those heroes is the same. Alright, so this should be an easy takeover. Let's just get these units closer so that they can benefit from some experience here. And we'll go for the easy auto, honestly. Should just be an easy capture here. Okay. Easy. I mean, this game might end a little bit too soon. I don't want it to end this fast. Alright, we'll take over this. Just additional research gain. Gain a colonist. Sure. We can go this way. Let's take a look over here and see what we can find. Oh, that's an easy kill. So we can just keep farming, keep getting ourselves up. And let's go ahead and get a monitor just so that we can take a look at his army, where he's moving to and from. So we can see 612, 920, and 220. He's got nothing. So he has no army that can really threaten me. And he's on hard, by the way. He's not on easy or normal. He is on hard here. But it's not feeling very hard. It's feeling really easy, to be honest. Okay, spacers. Again, this is going to be a research quest. I don't do research quests. I don't do military the production quests. I only do quests where I can attack units and gain experience and profit that way. I think research quests really just detract from your overall progress in the game, especially in real PvP multiplayer games where everybody else is researching simultaneously and you're just sidetracking yourself. I like that ability. I like this mod. This is really good for the melee heroes, like this one here. It allows myself to heal up 10% every turn for 4 turns. That's really good for melee heroes as well, because that can couple and stack with the Din Din ability as well as Assimilate, so they all can kind of get my health back pretty much cyclically. But I did take some damage on this group here. So you can see that my health 50, 20, 20% here, which means even though I can probably get myself to engage with some of these, I'll wait until next turn to heal up and be smart about my engagements here. And now this army is basically ready for another commander, honestly. My army is just thriving here. Alright, have my end game. One of my end game reassembly modules was. So what this does, boys, is that it gives rage generation 15% of my maximum health every turn in combat, and I get plus 15 health on my unit. So right away, this is gonna get me to 59 if I equip it, plus 15 health, and every turn I can recover hit points. And if I die in combat and I win the battle, though, my units come back to life after the battle, so I can fight again. So it's an amazing sustain, it's an amazing tank module. It's basically a must-have on your tanks. There's a reason it costs a lot. It's because it's really good. So we'll get that. We're gonna put that on our Echo Walkers as well, but we only have so much Cosmite, so we have to wait a few turns to actually get that finished. So we'll wait until this is finished modding, obviously, before we go crazy. But that's okay. And from here, really making sure everything's in production, as always. I join core. Let's get the defense turrets. And end turn. I really want to showcase the endgame Quantric technology, which is amazing. And you guys will really enjoy that one. Don't really need as many influence points at this stage. We can go ahead and maybe invest in some spacer technology. Let's see what we can get here. Laser weapons is not something I'm using, so this would not be important for me. Biochemical weapons is something I'm using, but I don't really have the slot for it. I'm already applying debilitating infection with my neurotoxic implants, so that's useless as well. I am 20 favor away from them becoming buddies with me, so I can just invest. Interestingly enough, doesn't matter how much of a cost it is, 40 or 30 with the units, they'll still both increase your favor by 5 points. So even if I want to be cheap, I can just get 4 psychos, and that'll increase my favor. I can afford that next turn. So next turn I can get the 4 psychos, and that'll increase my relationship to friendship, and then I'm thinking about getting wasteland scavengers as well. So maybe I will just wait until I have a little bit more in the influence points to do a quest or two and get that. Because when I kill something, I get some energy. It's nothing major, but just taking advantage of what I have for my resources here. Alright. Let's keep modding ourselves as we end our turns. Slowly but surely we'll get everybody modded. And this is why unit preservation is important. So that you don't need to keep paying up the Cosmite cost over and over again. Okay, auto combat. Everybody's actually healed after that. Okay. All right, so we'll get the 20 influence points here. So we were just talking about having enough influence to get the upgrade. Okay. And we're just modding ourselves over and over again. These guys are done. This guy's done. This guy's finished. Don't worry about the other guys so far. I don't have any mods on my Vorpal Sniper, and I don't have mods on my Electrocutioner. Those mods, the Vorpal Sniper mods, will be electromagnetic utilization, and some NPC mods from the Paragon faction, which are amazing for the Vorpal Sniper. So if you are playing a game and you have Paragon faction as one of the potential options, that could be a factor where I would say, okay, you know what? I'm going to prioritize Vorpal Snipers this game because I have Paragon to give me some of their good mods. Whereas the Electrocutioners will go down the endgame arc tree. Electrocutioners are not really great for modding because they require endgame arc mods. Whereas the mid-tier, even the advanced bionics or toxic applications in tier 5 and tier 3 can be used to sustain the early game scavengers and the echo walkers. So that's why I choose these as opposed to the arc tree, because if I face any type of harassment early on, I won't get as much benefit from arc as I would from the assembly melee lineup here. Okay, and yeah, so let's just keep going. Let's just attack him because he's not attacking me, and we are done modding, so let's just continue onward. Easy XP gain. We're waiting for him to threaten me. He's got an army, but he has arguably a force here that can potentially threaten me, but he's not going for it. Relatively similar army values. I'm a little bit higher. He's got about 2,000 here. In total, I'm sitting at about 2,400. So 2,000 is about 24. Nothing too major.
Empire task completed.
No major advantage, I say. Alright, so I got a unit reward. Electrocutioner here. Unmodded, nothing crazy. For a reward, it's pretty lackluster, I'd say. Make sure everything's done. Pixie, not producing. Let's make sure our happiness is fine. It is fine. So let's just go ahead and go for the infrastructure, since it is a forward pace. Accept that demand and turn. And now we captured another sector, which just reduces his income overall. Pretty sure I can end the game right now, but I don't want to end the game right now because I want to showcase a little bit more of the end game, which is partially where the Void really shines, is those end game mods from Quantric. Alright, so I have another hero opportunity, which is good because you can see that I need another hero because everything is full. Everything's full. I have this here, this guy, these two guys, and my other squad is full, pretty much. So I would like to have another hero to take on more infantry and add to their own perks and bonuses. Huge XP gain, or research gain. We're gonna wait until next turn to take these guys because we've just taken 2 battles. We've lowered our health to about half hit points on some of our guys, and that's fine. We're being efficient. We're getting our guys promoted. We don't really want to lose any guys recklessly. We can wait next turn to take this army on 750, and then bring those guys back home. Once we clear out the top, this will be pretty much a sector that we can just colonize for free. If we want to go that route, we don't have to go that route. Take this hero. And let's take a look. You should generally look at to see what the hero has learned already. So let's go down to... well, she has learned nothing. Seems like she's learned nothing. Some heroes won't have anything learned sometimes. So she hasn't learned anything. We'll have the opportunity to go into whatever we want. Cybernetic Overdrive, pretty much an instant pick. Infantry Commander, amazing. And Nanite Boosters, pretty much every squad. I say the same thing all the time, I suppose. Sound like a broken record, huh, boys? Battlefield Repairs is okay. Not necessarily as important for Assembly with their high level of sustain anyways. She already has an SMG. She's kind of built into range. She has this mechanical takeover. I'm not a big fan of these override, mind control things, which can fail. Requires some level of commitment toward the mid. You need to be close enough. It seems okay, but it's also very expensive. It's 6. You know, it's a 6-point skill that has a chance to fail. So I don't usually like override Daemon as much. Personally, disrupting hack again. Not too impressive, personally. I'd rather just go into the additional, so my army supports or damage myself. Deadeye for accuracy, range, specialist. I give those more value. And I give myself some vital for fun. In terms of, well, we'll wait until next turn. Upgrade as well. He's ready to upgrade. Stunning Discharge is very powerful for melee. It allows me to apply a stun, high level stun in an AoE radius. So that's very good for melee. Counterattack, melee overrush can no longer be cancelled by stagger, will never miss. That's not bad. Wouldn't prioritize it early on, but it's okay for now. Because stagger, everybody can stagger, basically. it seems like everybody can stagger. Okay, enter. Okay, so now we're pretty much going to end our turn pretty quickly here. We're not going to prioritize the economy as much. Let's just keep producing for now. We're just basically going for Echo Walker Scavenger, Echo Walker Scavenger. We're just mixing in an Electrocutioner every once in a while, very rarely. We want to only have basically one Electrocutioner per squad, per team. So I only have maybe 4, not very many. Hero is around here and somewhere. Okay. But mostly Echo Walker Scavengers. And this makes sense because we were talking about how you want to have a hero, a ranged DPS like an Electrocutioner, and then you want to have about 3 tanks. In 2 Scavengers and Echo Walker, or 3 Echo Walkers. Some mix of Echo Walker Scavenger combination. You don't want to be doing 3 ranged DPS, 1 tank.
Production ready.
So of course, naturally, we'll be producing 3 times as many Scavengers and Echo Walkers compared to the amount of backline DPS, Electrocutioners, or Vorpal Snipers, depending on your strategy. Okay. More military. I'd like to... Where's my... I have a good idea on what he's doing now. Let's get this Inspector over here so that we can take more sector, more territory, and clear up this... Well, I'll try to clear up some more Cosmo when we can, I suppose. We should have my army here. These guys should be able to kill. Take that energy. And this squad is just continuously progressing, whereas his squad is just chilling and like not getting any experience, it seems. Alright, NPC army here. Oh, he finally hired another hero. So he's got a... I mean, he's got a good army. It'll be a battle. It'll be a fun battle. But if he waits 8 turns, it pretty much will be a slaughter instead of a battle. And I want to showcase that technology anyway, so the longer he waits, the better it is for me.
Incoming communication.
He's insulting me. You may be the rising star now, but it won't last. Sooner or later, my empire will rise above all. We'll see about that. Adaptive exploitation is another opportunity for Cosmite, so you can go into that. Like I said before, you want about 35-40 toward the end game. We're pretty much approaching... We're in the mid-game now, to be fair, but we're in the middle of the mid-game, I'd say. I'd classify early game from turn 0, or turn 1, to... Turn 20 is the end of the early game, turn 20. And then from 21 to really turn... No more than turn 40 is the mid-game. And then from 41 on, games can end by turn 50, so turn 41 to turn 70 is pretty much the end of the late game. Games don't usually go on for much longer than turn 70. So I'd say we're in the middle, toward the end of the mid-game, and that makes sense because we're also finishing up one of our end-game techs for 1 tree. That's pretty much marks where I would expect to be at this stage in the game. 871, 1059. We're not exactly killing it in terms of... we'll give it a try. Give it a try. We might lose a guy here, though. We're good, we're good. These ranks really mean a lot. These prime ranks really turn your guys into beasts. You can see right away, 71 hit points on a tier 1 unit. You may be thinking to yourself, wow, it's a tier 1 unit, right? But between the ranks and the mods, these are not tier 1 units anymore. This is really the tier... This is tier 3 now, because of the way that these guys have progressed. They're basically 2 to 3 times as strong as a normal tier 1 unit, just because of the way that these guys are built. And another reason why I'm able to just go in and kill recklessly here is because of this reassembly module. The fact that I can just come back to life after battle really preserves these ranks. If I win the battle, and I will win the battle because it's a low risk battle, so I do expect myself to win that battle. Check the production. Not producing here. How long until growth? we see 8 turns a while from now. We can get a research upgrade. Just every once in a while, tab through and see what you can make. Nothing too special there. And this is a full squad again. So that's 3 plus another 3. I'll have 3 full squads there plus 1 full squad farming more research and experience, getting himself leveled up. And we can end our turn while he is getting a couple heroes here and there. He seems to be, doesn't seem to be too productive. Okay, so I can take another sector over. I'll do that with the next guy that comes out. 80 energy. Production. And I have 6 turns to wait for my other research, my other mod. So I don't really value things like these random ads. To me, it's a waste of time, waste of money, waste of a slot for your army. I pretty much sell them 80% of the time. The only time I value these are if I really need a quick unit to defend myself against an unsuspecting attack, or if I want to have a scout in the early to mid game, just gotta send them out to get pickups. But to me, these are useless, not worth your time. The grenade isn't bad, but grenade is actually pretty good, but don't want the hassle of the other unit. So I'd rather just sell everything and focus more on energy overall. And keep the farm going. Level it up again. Let's keep up the skill points here. So let's go into vitality here. Give myself a little bit more. I don't really value Deadeye as much, considering I'm melee, so the accuracy is pretty much wasted. I'm already very highly accurate for a melee attack. But I like Close Quarters Specialist. And the reason why I like Close Quarters Specialist is because melee attacks already have a very high damage anyways. And you almost always get the repeating effect if you're within range, so you get to really take advantage of that, as opposed to Range Specialist, where you can sometimes get the full attack, sometimes just get maybe a 1 or 2 shots, depending on what weapon you use, the situation, and if you proc martial tradition or not, things like that. Okay, so energy. Let's come down here, take that sector. This colony is all right, so let's take a look and let's see what we can do. He's got, let's do the math here. 600, 11, 6. Is that it? Plus 2. So 11, 17, plus 8. 24? 25, 24, 25-ish? Alright, it's not that bad. We're at 22-ish. So what we can do, I suppose, is... Wow, they can move pretty far, huh? Look at that. Wonder if this still counts as their territory, where they can just move through without a problem. Because their move speed seems to be relatively unlimited in this case. They can move really far. Whereas I have I suppose I have less movement than they do. It could just be the territory. Sometimes you just need to click and figure it out. Okay. I don't think these sector base, these don't have any militia for me. Seems like it. Decline that. It's a production quest. Not too interested in that. And we will end our turn. It's such a stare down here. We're just waiting to get our endgame. 4 turns until we get our endgame tech for our tanks and melee. And yeah, we could just keep going with the Echo. We could just keep going with the Echo Walkers because they're pretty much one of the strongest units we can make at this stage in the mid game. And then we'll go into our end game tech toward the late game where we go into our wreckers and our reavers. So, yeah. Scavenger. We're pretty good here. I'll just wait the 4 turns. See if there are any mods I can throw on. I will throw myself the reassembly mod here instead of this one. Because I am a melee hero, I really prioritize that on melee heroes. This one, the other mod I had for my main. Don't have any other really good range DPS mods. So heroes, until I get the archery finished, don't have as much love. In turn.
Sector annexed.
Okay. And you're basically having a field day farming with this guy. This guy's almost level 8. And we want him to be level 8 because level 8 we can get the modular extension, which is an amazing mod, which is an amazing ability that allows us to equip another mod. And that's great for us. Very nice. Great. Yep, this in turn. That's why we get the military there.
Happiness event in colony.
Make sure we're happy. Get the wreck dome. Watch the turns it takes to get the unhappiness. We'll get that later. That's 6 turns, 4 plus 2 is 6. We have 20 turns, so worry about that. We'll prioritize energy here as well. Keep getting our Echo Walkers. They're really cheap. They're pretty dirt cheap at this stage in the game. Our upkeep is 140. Our income is 155. So we're slightly producing more than our upkeep. But we should also keep an eye on that. Not a big deal when we lose units. And we're going to engage in a fight in 2 turns-ish. So it's okay. Myself some more experience here. Give myself some research. And then my turn. Let's see if he goes for an attacker here. Something.
Systems infiltrated.
Oh, he infiltrated me.
Production ready.
He infiltrated me, boys. That's actually good. Gives me more research when I have everything filled up. Society Investment Center. Fornoid. Where am I missing a sector? Oh, I just haven't annexed, I think. Could take Golden Sands. Yeah, it doesn't matter really. Oh, that's the landmark. Yeah. Or I could take this one here for some production. Fortnoid. And we'll take this one for IXI. This one for IXI. That's good. Okay, works out. One turn left. Okay. And no turns left. So we finished up the Quantric technology. After that, I go into Arc main tree. And then I can play around with my mods. So you have this thing called emergency Quantric shielding. Now this is where it gets fun. Anytime I take fatal damage, I'm left with 1 hit point, and I'm guaranteed to survive until next turn. I gain all complete immunity to all damage and status effects, so it gets rid of any stuns or debuffs, any type of status effect that would otherwise affect me. I get +2 additional armor, which is more tank, and interestingly enough, this also prevents my clones from fully dying. So any clones that it would normally, like with Quantum Echo, normally my clones would leave after 2 turns. Clones that die with the Quantum Echo after 2 turns actually proc my emergency Quantric shielding, and they don't die. They go to one hit point, and they're still able to take turns. I'll show you what that looks like as well. So we get that. We're upgrading for 1 turn. We're gonna give those to the scavengers as well when we can afford it. And this is where we replace the phase walk modulator. This is also why you want to get the Cosmite, because you can see how quickly the Cosmite just depletes over time. And turn. And we are maxed out on our influence points, so we might as well go ahead and spend that. Get the spacers to be happy. Get those sight. We need 5 more, so we get that. So they're happy. We'll get the scavengers. Recover valuable resources after battle. After battle, we gain some energy. It scales with the number of units killed. So we'll get that scavenger upgrade. Everything else is kind of firearms and melee weapons have a chance to apply hallucinating, causing all attacks against affected units to count as flanking. Seems interesting. Reducing the accuracy by 30. But I mean, I don't really have a spot for it. Maybe I could give that to my range that I don't otherwise have mods on for now. You started researching Quantric Shield on turn 30. When you had 140 reach, you now have 176, and shielding costs 2,500 research neural money. On average, 80 per turn. On average, I suppose, right? It depends. Each game's a little bit different. Sometimes I do 2 research colonies instead of 1. Some games are, each game is a little bit different depending on if I start with the production, if I start with the research. Some games I go into, where is it? This is where my synthesis. Sometimes I go into Connected Society. Now, Connected Society before you go into all of this mid game is actually amazing. In fact, I want to finish up Adaptive Exploitation and go into this to show you how good it is. And this is something that gets better as the game progresses. This isn't something I'll really advocate for starting the early game at all with, but the mid game, the beginning of late game, this is very strong. Obviously, you need to get the happiness upgrades in time to account for that -4 on happiness, but this can easily get your research up by 50, 60 points around this stage of the game. And I'll show you what that looks like in a few turns here. But to answer your question, yeah, supposedly this is a good indicator of how much research I would have, give or take. It's not based on the RNG of the map, based on the RNG of other locations and other ways it plays. It's a little bit hard to calculate exactly what turn it would be. It's not 100%. It wouldn't be like turn 40, turn 39. Nothing like that is really definite. Just approximates. Alright, so let's get those scavengers. Load a few more upgrades if we can. That one's fine. Quantric. Great. And I have so many scavengers to the point where I almost can't afford so many of these. Okay. Look at that research bonus. Jeez. And this is going to go fun. This is going to go really fast as well. You can see how fast I'm already completing. I'm up to tier 6. And the end of assembly line is going to take me 24 turns, which realistically is going to be a lot faster than 24 turns as things get produced. And I'm going to couple that with my Connected Society, and you'll see just what that can do, which is one of my favorite upgrades as well. Assembly have some of the best doctrines in my opinion, the best doctrines in the game. They're very powerful. Another reason to play Assembly. You have some very, very powerful doctrines. Alright. I'll level it up. I could get that modular extension that we were talking about before. And continue. So I guess this is the time I'm going to potentially pose a threat down here to my opponent. See what he has in that general area, since I'm pretty much done farming.